The Z to Z Podcast.
Good morning, good evening, or good day, and welcome to the Z to Z Podcast, the home for Xbox achievement hunters and gamerscore junkies. I am your host, Brandon Freem, and thank you so much for listening. At Z to Z, we love gaming, and in particular, grabbing achievements and gaining gamerscore. We do news, reviews, and interviews. If it's about achievements, we'll unlock it. This week's show is a little news-heavy, and maybe we can get you humming a little 8-bit ditty from your past. We chat up about gaming music, both past and present, some music theory, and maybe one of us will try and sing on the show. I really hope not, though. And if we do, I hope it's not me, because I am terrible. You know, you can find show notes for this show, as well as previous shows, on our website, z2z.com. This is episode 23. You can also contact us with questions and comments on Twitter, at Z2ZZEDTOZED, or email us directly at contact@z2z.com. Today's show is brought to you by the achievement Louder Than Bombs in Eternity from the game Green Day Rock Band. This achievement is one of the most brutal drum achievements, requiring 100% of the drum kick notes on Brain Stew and Jaded at the expert difficulty. Now, I'm more of a Jesus of Suburbia or Longview guy, but I'm also terrible at rhythm games. So, this achievement boasts an outstanding 8.83 TA ratio. Now, there are a couple ways to approach this challenge. Number one, get good. You play it legit. And if you can do it legit, go start a real band, because there are talented musicians who do play it legit and cannot get this achievement. The second method is called the hands method, although you can use your foot like a normal person. But the theory is you put the pedal on your lap and then turn on no-fail mode. So essentially all you have to do is focus on not missing one of those orange bars. The third method is a courtesy of our very own Crandy, and is essentially using a computer to play the game for you. If you want to learn how to do this, you can go to his TA solution. It gives a step-by-step on how to achieve this. So does this ruin the game? Well, I guess the end justifies the means, doesn't it? A special thanks to developer Harmonix and publisher MTV Games, and of course, Hydro Thunder Hurricane. And if you, our fantastic listeners, have a suggestion for an achievement sponsor, let us know. You can contact us via Facebook, Twitter, of course, at Z2ZZEDTOZED, or email contact@Z2Z.com. Hell, you know what? You could even put it in an iTunes or podcast review. So, let's get this show started with an introduction of my co-hosts. And of course, I'm joined by my regular co-hosts. Today we have Terrigan. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Frame yourself.
Wonderful. I'm doing fantastic. And Crandy, how are you tonight?
I'm pretty good.
Awesome. So let's get things started with your mug here. We're going to talk about your mug a little bit later too, but let's hear what you have today.
Well, today I have another one in my Things I Haven't Done series. I just got this one this week, and it's a SF State alumni mug. That was a good one.
FS State, like Florida State?
SF, San Francisco.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got a great 90s font. It's very similar to Compacta, which is one of my favorite fonts. So I couldn't turn that down. It's something I haven't done. And
I'm a big Comic Sans guy myself.
Oh, okay.
Or Helvetica.
I don't think I know that one.
See,
you know what?
You can't really say those two in the same sentence. Be a serious font mode. That's just
Garamond for the win. Yeah. No, I don't. I don't know my fonts very well. I just know the names because I'm always trying to find.
Compact is not a. I don't think it's a common one. I had to do some digging. I saw it. It's actually on the subway trains. On some of the older cars, they have this thing that says Bike Zone, and it's the greatest looking thing ever. I think I have a picture. We can probably put it in the show notes. And so I started digging with some help, and we eventually figured out that it was a slight variant of the Compacta font that is
Nice.
fantastic font.
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm going to have to take a look at the show notes myself. Moving on.
I've actually just last thing there. It was a bit of a trend a while back for people to be wearing like a T-shirt with Helvetica. Like a lot of designers had it, like Helvetica written in Helvetica font, and it was kind of a thing. Don't ask me why. But there was a T-shirt I found which was basically a troll version of that, which had Helvetica but written in Comic Sans. It's just like a big screw you to pretty much.
That's
designers
funny.
everywhere.
And I totally did not know that. So the fact that I picked both of those fonts is totally messed up.
So what's the thing with Helvetica? I just looked it up, but like what's special about it?
Helvetica is just sort of it's kind of the classic modern font, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not enough of a font nerd.
Reminds
to
me of
really tell you
Shakespeare.
history.
Like,
But
yeah.
it's got a big. Yeah, it was sort of one of the big ones that came out of it's got a long history anyway, and yeah, I couldn't tell you. You need to get a font nerd to tell you, but it is sort of one of the well-respected, well-regarded fonts. And designers kind of love it and wear T-shirts for it. So,
Mike, and that's our featured topic for the week, guys. Is fonts. I hope you enjoy. God, what a train wreck! Not that this next comment's going to get us back on track, but I feel vindicated, which is great because so not only did they get some corrections on A Sound of Thunder, like. Literally within hours of the podcast being posted, I got 2 PMs, one from Thrash Forever and one from Blue Thunder 7398. Both of them were like, you remember the 2005 terrible movie starring Ed Burns and Sir Ben Kingsley called A Sound of Thunder? I did not. Now, of course, go back and look. It's like, yes, that's what I remember. And I don't know why I didn't type in Sound of Thunder. I'm just looking up Butterfly Effect. And of course, it didn't come up on that. So I feel slightly vindicated that there indeed I wasn't making something up. Like I indeed saw a terrible movie about that book. But now I also feel dumb the fact that I suggested we turn it into a movie because apparently someone tried and failed.
Well, maybe they can try again and not fail.
That is kind of pretty common in Hollywood that they're going to go ahead and just redo everything over and over. Aren't they remaking another King Kong? That's coming back.
I like the last one though.
I thought so. Peter Jackson's King Kong was great.
I like that one.
Great's a strong word, but
the game not so much.
I like the game too. I thought the game was fun.
Game was alright, very, very.
It wasn't like the best game ever, but for a movie game, it was pretty good.
It wasn't the worst game. It certainly got a bad rap, but yeah, it wasn't.
Nice.
It was just short enough to still be fun. Like that's what I thought. Like it was just the perfect length for a game like that.
I gotcha. Is that your 300K game? Have you already 1K'd that game, Terrigan?
King Kong, yeah, I 1K that.
Oh, okay, so that's not it, huh?
That was one of the first in my. Hey, I should really try and work on my gamer score, and I think that was kind of my first pickup.
Nice.
It was kind of a staple back in the early days.
Yep. So my 300K, by the time this airs, I will have hit 300K. So I will tell you my plans for it now, just to get it all out of the way. But the people who managed to guess it were Angel SK, Joe, which we mentioned last episode. NBA Kirkland managed to guess it this time around and has won the code. And within minutes of NBA Kirkland guessing it, Buck Marley 155 also guessed it in a PM. So he just missed out on that. But the achievement I'm planning to get is 3 lock in threes for 33 points to round up my 300,000 because I figured that made sense.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I like it.
And it's going to put you exactly at 300,000?
Yep.
Nice.
So that's why I got my gamer score onto an odd number. It was just basically to set up the 33 remaining.
Don't accidentally get Wayland or Volio.
Yeah.
Get those guys.
It's a bit difficult to accidentally get those.
Whoops, I got a 1,728 tile or whatever the hell the divisible is. Yeah, actually, that's on my list. If I continue to survive in Leapfrog and Project Spark is done, that 3s comes up and I get the solver out and I hope for the best. That'll give me 5 more days.
Yeah, I did manage to use the solver to get the second last tile, so not the very final tile. I didn't have the patience to go through, but using the solver that I have access to, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to get to that final tile, given enough tries. But even with even the best solvers out there don't get to that tile all of the time.
Oh, right.
They only get to it. So, like, say in 100 games, using one of the best ones out there, it'll only get to it like five times. So it's only like a 5%.
Oh my god, 5%? That's awful.
So that's even
Now,
So
is that because the game itself makes that impossible, or is that because the solver is not smart enough to figure it out and think ahead?
The solver is thinking ahead. It's actually the game itself just happens to
generate a scenario that you
kind of like solitaire.
Yeah, you kind of got to be a bit lucky with particularly some of the bonus tiles that you get later in the game, because they can really mess up any kind of strategy if they come in at the wrong place.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to get lucky with those. There's various things that they use to try and break strategies like that within the game. It's actually a very well designed game. Some of the history on it's pretty interesting.
Cool. I like it. So what else you got for us?
Let's see. There was another guest for the 300k that I thought I'd just give it an honourable mention to. At JackVGS, Jack on Twitter, he guessed that I was going to go for the Desert Limo Marathon, which is actually called Smoke and Mirrors in Roundabout. Now, we've sort of mentioned this before, but in Roundabout, it's got a little bit of a nod back to Smoke and Mirrors by Penn and Teller, and there is an achievement for driving a limo, which happens to be spinning, mind you, for like 12 hours or something like that. Straight. It's just one of the challenges.
That was only like 6 hours or something, wasn't it?
Okay, well,
it's shorter than it's shorter than the original Desert Bus, but it's slightly harder because they're like cars or something. I don't remember.
Do you think your internet could survive long enough to Z stream that on Twitch? I'd love to see you try.
Mine would. I could do it.
Because then Crane and I could join your feed, and we could just hoot and holler and be drinking and traditional Desert Bus style.
I might try that for my 333.
We could have a Z Desert Bus marathon. That'd actually be really funny.
Kerrigan drives, and we all just hang out and party. I mean, what, you can have 16 people, right?
I mean, I could drive. Like, my internet at home is good enough to support something like that.
Well, but you can't be drinking.
I want to start Roundabout.
We gotta be responsible here. No drinking in Roundabout. You're already spinning.
I won't drink. You guys can.
I don't drink either, so.
Nice. Well, anyway,
so drink.
And I will.
Well, so you'll have to drive. So,
do you think that'll counteract it if I'm a little tipsy? That I'll be able to hold it straight because I'm naturally going to want to turn.
Maybe. Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you're already spinning from drinking and you're on a car that's spinning, if you're spinning in the opposite direction to the way that you're spinning, would that counteract each other?
That's what I'm saying. I'll use your gamer tag because it'll be spinning in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's good tip. Yeah.
That's how that works, right?
Some good solid logic we've got going on.
We are locked in on this one. Yeah. All right. Smoke and mirrors, here we come. Speaking of Z streaming, so I made a post as of recording yesterday. It looks like I'm going to have an open weekend coming up here. And so as of recording, it would have aired in the past. But what I'm going to try and do moving forward is kind of give a heads up as to like, hey, look, this might happen in regards to, in this instance, it's going to be Dark Souls. I'm going to give that hopefully I gave that another run. But I'm going to be using, my Twitter, my TA friend feed, to kind of announce when, hey, things are going to be happening. So keep your eyes on those because obviously the show with the timing and the delays isn't going to work out. So if you're interested in stopping by, hanging out, hook me up or hit me up. And we'll try and get into a party and just chit chat while I struggle through Dark Souls. And of course, there'll be other games down the road. And I know Crandy, you've got some ideas and stuff too.
Yeah, now school's done almost.
School's done. School's out.
Summer.
Actually, forever in this case.
That's right. You're the second verse.
But yeah,
they let you kids quit school early.
I know.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he lives like in farm country where they need him to go tend the fields, so he doesn't get to finish high school. He has to go work
or even start high school with him.
Yeah, he's got to sew shoes or something.
Pick cabbages and carrots or something.
Yeah. Hey, maybe he can work for you, Terrigan. What's this this service here you got?
I'll just because I've been getting a bit of interest in this. I've had a number of people actually contacting me to get access to some of the Australian exclusives and or currency codes as well. So I just thought I'd let people know that in general, if people are looking for games such as the Saints Row 4 Australian versions or Soldier of Fortune, the Australian version of that, I'm more than happy to source those and send them on overseas, and also Australian currency codes are available too. So
nice.
So I mentioned that.
Doors open. Look at that action. Well, that's fantastic. And looks like we got a comment here from Mick Love and Legend. He sounds excited.
Yeah, it's just he was talking about some other things, but he did mention that he wanted a bit of an update on the Balrog project, the Bean Dive All the Little Loved, Rare and Overlooked Games project that I've been working on for a while. So just in case people aren't aware of what that is, my aim is to try and dive as many of the games that have less than 300 starters on TA. So less than 300 people have actually got that game and earned an achievement in it on True Achievements.
Is there a way to search for that?
Kind of. You basically get the all games list and just order by number of people who've played it.
Gotcha.
And then do a bit of there's a couple of things you can do there as well to like filter out unreleased games and things like that. And then I've got a big spreadsheet copy of that, which I keep track of for all of my, because it's kind of difficult to keep track of all of it. So yeah, currently I've got a list of about 225 games that I'm looking at. I own 84 of those already, so I'm still picking up or looking to pick up another 140. But as my budget is slowly declining, I may not be able to get a lot of those, particularly as they are going up in cost. So we'll see how we go. I know I've got a few other ones I haven't listed on this particular spreadsheet that are available, but yeah. It's going to be at least, I reckon, 100 games in that particular category, plus any others that I decide to dive during the time. So, there we go.
Bingo bongo.
It's happening.
And you're targeting that for like the actual Bean Dive in July,
yes.
Right?
Yes, that's right. So July 4, I think that's happening.
Is that really when it starts?
I believe so.
America.
Oh. I was going to say, because I usually like the 7th. Is it like a does that happen to be a Friday or something?
Yeah, I think they like to start it off on like a Friday or a Saturday or something like that and have it run for a week or 10 days. So
makes sense.
On the 4th.
Makes sense. Final kind of introduction piece here. We've got a ton of people still commenting on so Cinecide, Mad Eye, Pad Eye, Big L. They're all down for a community show of sorts, trying to come up with something. I mean, our friend feeds again blew up this week on just having people communicate and having a fun conversation. We'll go as our featured topic suggested by Big L this week. I'm going to read through a lot of the comments because there's some really great conversations happening there between the people who listen to the show, and it's fantastic. Comments, contributions to the show. So yeah, to capture that in not only on the podcast, but having the dialogue continue in forums or even having a hosted community show or a gathering of sorts. It sounds awesome. So it's definitely on our list still. We haven't forgot about it. That's for sure.
I won't promise anything, but I am kind of thinking episode 26 might be a nice one to try and do something like that, given that's at our 6 month point. So 26 weeks.
Oh, our 6-month anniversary. You remembered. All right. Yeah. Well, hey, why don't we get into just kind of a quick recap on what we've been playing this week? We kind of already talked about it. And, of course, Leapfrog's still going on. Terrigan, you still alive?
I am still alive, still hopping.
Nice.
I've had
what else? What have you been playing?
I reached into Rare Replay for the first time to keep me alive, though. So.
Uh-oh.
But that's mostly because I accidentally popped one in Project Spark when I didn't mean to. I had the level 50 Project Spark one queued up on Xbox One, and that's like a 10-something ratio.
Is it that high?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that high.
Well, the thing is, though, is they're all going down. So many people are unlocking things that it's like I've been eyeballing these achievements and trying to time my things out, and all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, hey, that one might actually fall under the threshold at some point. It's going to throw off my plan. What else have you been playing, Terrigan?
Well, besides Project Spark, which I'm down to only 4 achievements needed for the completion across both platforms now, so I'm getting pretty close.
But the important one is the Xbox One version. That's the one you and I have a head-to-head competition in.
Yeah, well, I don't think either of us are going to finish that before the month is out, unless you can get that weekly one done.
I already have that weekly one done.
Well, you're going to win then, because I still need another.
Yeah, damn right. Well, that's not entirely true. I was going to rub in your face when I got to what I was playing, but yeah, so like I am totally in line for wasting you in that, because that's your last one. And I have this thing spec'd out where I do one achievement each day, and I end on June 1st, and that leapfrogs me to June 1st. Yeah. The problem is, one of those that I was talking about, that the ratio is just plummeting, is rating 100 worlds, and my tracker's not going up. Like, so I don't. Maybe you guys.
There is a thing on that. I can tell you. So,
is it because it has to be like non-copied worlds or like individual?
No, it's really stupid. It only counts off like one world, so you just have to rate the same world 100 times. So you just upvote, downvote, upvote, downvote, upvote, downvote, and it'll work.
But there's 2 things there. There's when you go into a world and you play the world, exit the world, and it asks you to rate the world.
Yeah,
that rating does not count. Does not count at all. What you have to do is go in and change your rating from the screen where you choose play or remix or whatever.
Yeah.
You can go and change your rating. That counts.
Interesting.
Not actually rating it once you've exited a world, and it gives you that option too.
Man, I wish I knew that.
So you just go into it and just go up and down and up and down and up and down on the same world.
You can also do that for XP. You can get a lot of really fast XP by doing that.
Looks like I got my weekend planned for Leapfrog. This is going to be great. Because that's the one. That one's getting, it's like 6.6 right now. So it's not that close to Leapfrog, but that is the lowest ratio one I have left. And I was like, I don't know how to get this tracker to work.
Yeah, you have to. That's one of the ones you have to repeat on the other platform. It doesn't automatically unlock.
Oh, yeah.
Are you doing both versions, Freem?
No, I'm not. I might. I guess in theory, I could, just quick hop on a plane and fly over to my friend Terrigan's house and see if he can help me play it. But
right, you don't have Windows 8.
I don't have Windows 8, so. So no, I don't think I'm just going to pass on it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Anything else you got on there, Terrigan?
Yeah. Well, besides Project Spark and Elite Dangerous, of course. So just to get some points up this week, because it is getting pretty difficult in GTASC now, I played through a game called Nero, which is it's like a 3-hour completion. Not a really great game. It's pretty, but the story didn't really do much for me, so I just kind of rushed through that one. Just rare replay for one single achievement to keep me alive yesterday. So yeah, I'll probably be playing a lot more Rare Replay during the week as I'm starting to run out of achievements in Project Spark for the Leapfrog. But yeah, just a quick update on games purchased or added to my account. I actually did buy games this week. One of those was Pixel Piracy, just because it was on sale, and I also pre-ordered Mirror's Edge Catalyst. So they're my 2 that I've bought. I also won a copy of Enigmatus, The Ghost of Maple Creek.
Yeah.
Yep, that one. So I won a copy of that from is it
Dean Martin
off Twitter. So thanks for that. I sort of was looking through my list of games because given we account, so we home share, and I saw you've bought Unravel, so I've added that to my collection. I also found Sniper Elite 3. Now I don't know whether that's one of yours, Frame, or whether I just bought it and it is yours. Okay.
Well, you could have bought it too. I can't rule that out, but I do own that game.
Okay, so that's where it came from. Yeah, no, I didn't think I'd bought it unless I bought it on sale and totally forgotten about it. And I think State of Decay Year 1 is yours as well, so that's now added to my account.
There you go.
So yeah, I've added at least 6 games to my account, probably more. So relax, McLovin. Everything is okay.
Glad I can contribute a little bit to your addiction.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. What about?
I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
What about you, Crandy? How's How's yours been going this week?
Well, I've been playing a lot this week. So I played some Pool Pro online on the train. I'm almost done. I think I have like 80 balls left to sink. So I can finish that one up pretty quick. I played some Geometry Wars. I played some Tomb Raider. A lot of Saints Row 2 German version. I started BioShock 2 Japan, so that puts me at number 4 of 5. The last one is the international version, which I'm leaving for last intentionally because I think it's funny. Played some Ghostbusters, picking away at that. I started Doom. I got Doom.
Nice.
First brand new game in...
Yeah. So I got all of the multiplayer achievements in 3 games. I'm
nice.
I'm 3 for 3 wins. So I'm retiring now. No, I'll go back and play it some more at some point. The campaign seems pretty fun. It's pretty much what I expected. It's you just run around and shoot demons. Seems pretty solid. I don't like the whole emphasis on the glory kill thing. I think it's kind of annoying after a while, but we'll see. And then I played some Grind Hero Live on the 360. I'm done everything in that game now but the strums. So now I got to finish up the 1 stuff before I break my guitar with the 2 million strums I need to do. Because that's what I decided to do, is I figure I should do all the things that actually require precision first. Then I'll go back and do the strums, because at that point I don't care if the guitar doesn't work anymore, because I'm never going to touch that game again. And then I
thought you were literally going to break your
Oh,
guitar.
no. No, I just anticipate that the strum bar will not survive 2 million cycles. And then I started both versions of Project Spark. So I just added this up, some interesting statistics. In 6 days, I unlocked 204 achievements worth 9,051 TA in Project Spark, which puts me at 90% in the Windows 8 version and 82% in the Xbox One version. So you could do all of the non-time sensitive things in Project Spark in a week. And I was still studying for finals at the same time. So I wasn't just playing. Like I probably clocked in like 40 hours on Spark across the 2 platforms.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot easier, particularly with that tip from Sasha Morning about getting the XP for your characters, get them up to level 20 within, get all of them up within
less than an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably mention that, because I also have been using that this week, and of course with how reliable Project Spark has been, I've been getting achievements that are not related to leveling up, such as earning challenges and things when I'm not really doing anything. But I struggled forever to get that little setup to work. And so if you go to the TA solutions page, Sasha Morning has posted a solution using a brain created by, oh man, I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, he created a brain essentially that essentially makes an experience glitch, a loop in Voidstorm, the episodic adventure. And this thing just starts generating these Codite tiles, the little blue floaty squares, which get you like 50 XP every time you grab one. And if you set it up appropriately, you can essentially just sit there and the XP just goes bananas. So I really struggled setting this thing up. I don't know, have you guys used it at all?
Yeah, I used it to, because I'd already got all the level 20s, but my Ceph and Conqueror, I hadn't actually bothered to put them up, so I did those as well just for the extra XP.
Sure.
The trick I found with that brain was that when you copied it, it copied the page 1 and page 2.
Copied the whole thing, yep.
You actually had to delete page 1, otherwise it wouldn't work.
Yeah, so page 1 simply says highlight, do highlight, and what that does is it just renders the rest of the brain unusable, and that's so that you can use it and copy it over. So when you paste it onto, and I also struggled with finding my bearing when you go to, so Voidstorm starts up, you watch the little cinematic. You can actually stop it during the cinematic and hit edit from here, and you find the giant wall, the giant wooden wall. That's kind of the starting border. And when you zoom down in front of that, in the pathway, you'll see 2 orange brains, and then just a little bit to the left of that will be a green brain with a weird looking chain coming off of it, like a glowy chain. And so like I didn't understand which brain I was supposed to use. He spells it out. It's the right one. So if you look at the 2 orange ones, it's the one on the right. I mean, not that it really matters.
I actually changed all of them.
Did you?
It doesn't really matter.
Because then, once you change that, edit the brain, because there's nothing there. It's just a log. I mean, or just a blank item.
Yeah, I think it just triggers an in-game event. Normally,
yeah. So. Yep. And so you just hit L bump, hit to bring up the wheel, hit Y to edit the brain, and get the copy your other brain that you brought over from the achievement world is suggested in the solution, and we'll put the link to that solution world in the show notes. And delete that first page, and then copy that. I only copied it 5 times or so. Did you make a ton of copies?
I think I made 3, and then thought, I'll just see how it goes. And
yeah,
1 was more than enough.
Yeah, I made 5, and so then you show up, and all of a sudden there's these little blue Codites floating around. Oh man, and you just stand right there, and it's like winning the one-armed bandit spitting out quarters, just ding 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 ding, and all this experience just starts piling up. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. So yeah, I've been trying to time it so it's like, okay, I'll do that, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I was like, okay, I'm going to level up Hack-On right now, okay, and so I started doing it, and all of a sudden, Hack-On Challenge Master. I'm like, whoa, stop, hold on, what? I didn't even do a challenge. Why did this unlock? So I had to like quick stop run away from the thing. I didn't want to get to level 20 and unlock 2 achievements in one day. I need these to stay alive. So I've been slow playing the Voidstorm experience loop.
Well, and I had some glitch that Scarlet's 50 champion challenges like doubled. So I should only have about 25 or 30, but I popped Scarlet's 50 challenges like the second day I was playing Spark. So I don't know how that happened, but they must have double counted or something.
Super glitchy. Some people are seeing them like they'll have them up to like 35, and then the next day they'll drop down to 22, and they just go all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I said last week.
Yeah, so
Karsnor was going crazy.
Well. It's just like, wah. So yeah, and I remember seeing it sort of go up and down on my achievement tracker and going, what the heck is going on there? But
yeah, mine's been okay. So far, mine have.
I mean, I still
except for jumping up ridiculously high.
Yeah, today I have Conquer. I have Conquer at 49. It says, and it's like, well, I mean, technically I couldn't do that one today because it was the chainsaw one. I'm not at level 20 with him, but
well, you can just level him up.
Well, I could, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'll try tomorrow and I'll do him first, and we'll see if that unlocks. But then it kind of takes some time. So I could be like, well, okay, it didn't unlock right away. I guess I'll go level up Scarlet or whoever, and all of a sudden I'm going to get Conquer Mastery or something. I'm like, quit it.
I found that force quitting the game and then relaunching it often pops any hanging achievements. Okay. Not always, but it seems to.
That's good to know. The only really other thing I've been playing, this has been a pretty terrible week for me with, work, I've had to go to bed early, wake up crazy early. And so I've just been slow playing Project Spark, doing my dailies in Rayman Legends. And the other thing then is kind of right before bed, I've been playing some Geometry Wars. And it's on, Crandy. I mean, I tweeted you already, and it was on my friend feed. I'm at the 5 of 12 club now with you. I managed to get to 250,000 without dying. So we're at the exact same point in the game right now. Although technically, because of the decimal places, I'm at 41.7%, and you're at 42%. So I don't know. Work? I don't know. I think your own personal ones, you get extra digits, and then who you're comparing to is only rounded off to the nearest whole. So we're both at 5 of 12. So it's essentially a race to 500,000 here. How close have you gotten?
I got above 450.
Did you? Okay. The closest I've only got to 3. I think I was like at 328 or something when I crap the bed.
I need to put some more time into that because I've been scrambling for Spark, and then I've kind of put everything off all week, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm basically done with Spark now, so I can play normal stuff again while I wait for all these time related achievements. So
right,
to give it another go.
Yeah, I've been kind of just playing 1 or 2 matches a night and just seeing, hey, is this going to be my run? Is this? And I was reading some of the, kind of the tips on how to, how to play the game and what makes sense and stuff. It's just that's so different of how I'm playing right now, and it's like, oh, great. Now I got to relearn, these strategies and try to incorporate them into my normal play, and it's not
that's
easy.
What I've been doing too is taking those strategies, particularly the shoot in front of you and move.
Yes,
it does work. I had a couple runs where I was in the zone and then something threw me off and that was it. I was done.
And then isn't it like when you lose your first life, it's just like
that's it.
You just die constantly, like 3 in a row. Bam, 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 you're dead.
Because you get that huge focus that's already kind of like it's already spawning when you're there and you're not back into it yet. And then you kind of die enough to get through that intense part where it's kind of calm again. Then it gets intense again and you die a few times and it gets calm. At least that's what happens with me. Because by that time you're ramping up. You kind of have like 6 or 7 lives to lose. And
no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. So that's kind of what we've been playing. Now we'll move into news this time, and there's probably a lot more news than I want to cover, but there's so many like things that they kind of made me laugh. They made me chuckle. So I wanted to share some of those. But before we go, we kind of mentioned this last show. Just kind of with stuff with Project Spark. I don't know, Terrigan, if you want to fill our listeners in on kind of what's been going on in the world of Spark.
Yeah, well, the just a couple of things I've been kind of noting. The hub world was getting a bit flaky in Spark. It was noted that some people weren't able to actually access it at all. So there are 2 specific achievements tied to the hub world. So if you are looking for the Spark completion, go and do those as soon as you can. They're not very difficult. Basically, it's one collectible and access a secret area, and then you're done.
Yeah, I think it's about 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're really not very hard, but certainly go and get those done, just because the hub world does seem to be a bit up and down. The character leveling tip from Session Morning, we've already talked about that. There is, I think I've mentioned this before, but there is one of the tiers that you need to get a tier 1 milestone on is a forum thanks. There is actually a website which you can post on. You log in with your regular Xbox Live ID on that site. You can post something, and if people thank you, it adds up onto this milestone. It turns out you can actually spam that if you log in. Put your thanks in there, then log in with another account, another Xbox account, and go to that forum post, and then just hit thanks, remove thanks, thanks, remove thanks, and keep just spamming that button. You can build up your XP on that particular milestone ridiculously. So I sat there for about 45 minutes or so doing that, and that gives you about 13,000 Spark XP. So if you're looking for extra XP for your level 50, that's probably a good place to go. Doesn't take too long. And the other thing I found as well, the Community Surfer achievement on Windows 8, the requirements to unlock that are different to the Xbox One version. And that was kind of frustrating for me because the Xbox One version, you could essentially just go into one of those 1-second completion worlds and just keep reloading that world, and it would count towards Community Surfer. Not so on Windows 8. You actually have to go into 100 different worlds and load them and quit out.
Just a note on that one too. So the reason that happens is on Xbox One, it counts the use of a game over tile as credit, where on Windows 8 it counts the world. So there are actually worlds on Xbox One that have 100 game over tiles in them that all trigger simultaneously. So you just load that world, 1 time or maybe 2 times, and you get that achievement in literally a minute.
Yeah. So I wish I'd known that before as well. But,
well, you could just do what I did and have it unlock at 82%. So, I mean,
that works too.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I read as well. It was a bit glitchy too. So, but yeah, the Windows 8 version has a different requirement there. So, yeah, just something to note.
Cool.
And if anybody's got any tips at all beyond sort of the usual suspects for getting coins, that would be nice, because I've still got to grind out the 5,000 coins again on the Windows 8.
You know the tip with that one's buying and selling to the shop.
Yeah, that's the one, but it's still a grind.
It is a grind.
Another thing I'll note too is if you follow me on Spark as a creator, if you search Crandy, you can find one of my worlds. I remix a lot of the useful worlds, and that's the only thing that I have posted other than my achievement world that you can use to find me. So if you follow me, I post all the worlds that I use frequently, like weekly, daily, whatever, as remixes for things like that. Just for easy access to anyone that wants them.
It's fun seeing the friend feeds just go nuts with Project Spark. I mean, everybody's got
download my world. Please download my world.
Oh,
I mean, as of recording today, there's a big RSTA move on my friend feed with like literally half my friend list is going for the Rising Star achievement this weekend.
Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad we got that done last weekend?
Oh my God, yeah. Absolutely.
It's a pretty miserable process going through all so I really didn't relish doing that again.
God, no, absolutely not. Oh, and I mean, like, so at one point, I had to, so you created 30 email addresses for me, and so I was like, as I would log in, I just had a process. It'd be like, okay, go to xbox.com, get a gamer tag, load it into the Xbox, go to the world, do the votes, go back to xbox.com, and then at that point, it's like, all right, we're pretty sure you're a robot, so we're going to start sending you text messages. It's like, okay, fine, here's my number, boom, okay, authorization code, yep, there we go, keep going. I think I made it to 15, maybe 20, and they said, yeah, okay, you've hit your limit there, pal. Go get another phone or something. I'm like, you bastards. So I snuck upstairs at like 12:30 in the morning, and like tiptoed and stole my wife's phone and started putting her number in there, and so she's getting texts from Microsoft with online codes. I'm like, okay, quick, and I gotta delete the history so she doesn't see that.
It's funny.
Go back in, plug it back in.
After that, I was on the train, and there was an ad on there for an app called Sideline that is a free extra phone number that supports texting and stuff.
Oh, so nice.
That would have been very useful for you because you could have had as many phone numbers as you wanted.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So anyone else, if you're making lots of accounts, Sideline on the Google Play Store.
Speaking of new gamer tags, like some of my favorite ones that came up, I think I have like Moderate Lotus and there's a good pizza one. I forget, like Tempest Pizza or something. I don't know. I got some good gamer tags out of this thing. Some not so good. But this week, Xbox went ahead and recycled a bunch of the OG Xbox gamer tags, and like there's some really weird ones out there, like some 3-letter ones too. Like that was really strange that you could get some like really short gamer tags and stuff. But of course, there was an opportunity on Wednesday to go out and grab those. They still cost you $10 if you haven't. If you've already changed your tag once, so you can get one freebie, right?
Yeah, if you have the default one.
Yeah. So just a couple of people on my list I wanted to mention. So WT Buffs 87, just back to buffs. He got buffs by himself. Gamer Grug is now just Grug. Matt Dan 12 got to drop the 12. Wise Yorick is now Enter Gamer Tag, and XXJJ Aldana 2X is now just JJ Aldana. So, it was nice. It seems like those people all got the ones they wanted. I know, Urban, maybe you didn't quite have as much success.
Yeah, I was trying to see if Urban Spaceman, it's just Urban Spaceman, or just Urban Spaceman, one word would come up, but no, that's not available, unfortunately. I didn't try for Spaceman. I might try that, but I'm betting that's taken though. But yeah, I don't know. I'm all right with my tag though.
And I picked mine at the beginning. This is my original tag.
Yeah, I've never changed my gamer tag. It's been the same since Xbox One day, or the Xbox original days.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of other Xbox related things, we got some in terms of the games with gold in other countries. I think what was it Slashdash is Korea this week or something?
It's in the Asian bloc, yeah. So Japan has it as well. But now, just as a caveat, do this at your own risk, of course. But allegedly, you can simply go to the Xbox website. If you've got a gold account, you're signed in, go to the Xbox website and change your the website locale. So that's done by going right down to the bottom of the page, and there's a little option there to change your locale. You can change that to Japan, and apparently you can then get access to the exclusive games with golds in other regions like Japan. So Slash Dash is the games with gold in Japan, replacing, I forget what the game is this week. But yeah, so you can basically get Slash Dash, and there are occasionally others. I think Kalimbo was another one. There is some support to say that this is okay. An Xbox support engineer, there's a transcript of a discussion with a person actually specifically asking about whether this is all right, and an Xbox support engineer apparently confirming it. But again, with any of these things, different support engineers might give different answers, and who knows what will happen when it gets right down to the crunch. But yeah, some people are getting access to those games with gold, and Slash Dash is one of those extremely fast 1Ks as well. So,
Yippers!
I think you need 4 controllers for that.
You need 4 controllers, but yeah, it's some very fast XP.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the notes to the transcript in the original article and other details will be
cool.
in the show notes.
So now we're kind of in the part of the news where these are just we'll go through them quick, but I thought they were kind of funny. Although I will say, Urban, this week we got our announcement of, it wasn't a big secret, but Batman Return to Arkham, the remastered versions of Arkham City and Arkham Asylum coming to the Xbox One. The actual, and I'm not sure if Warner Brothers was planning to announce this week, but the leak came out because they had sent a trade magazine, their own magazine, and this happened in Italy. Somebody on Reddit saw this and was like, wait a minute. They actually posted in their own magazine, Batman Return to Arkham. Now they had a different release date on this, and so the internet took this and was like, "Oh my God, look, it's official! It's in their own publication." So then all of a sudden, Warner Brothers is like, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's coming out in July. It's going to be $40." So I don't know if that's how they wanted to announce it and release it, but it's kind of their own fault. You pretty pumped about this, Terrigan?
I am. Although, yeah, backlog and all that, but it will be after the Bean Dive, so that's going to work out well. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to going through all of that again, although not so much the Arkham City challenges. But hey, we'll deal.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, Arkham Asylum, I'll be playing through that for, the 6th time?
Yep.
I'll probably get that done. We'll see if I can get a speed run of it going this time.
Right. So another funny... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Sorry, never mind. Go on.
Yeah, for sure. Another funny thing that tickled my fancy this week. So GameSpot ran an article. We're seeing all these. We talked about the Assassin's Creed movie in the last show, about seeing the trailer and stuff. And so now there's, the hype train is real. People are pretty excited about this movie. It looks pretty decent. Again, it's a trailer. It's supposed to get you excited, but Ubisoft is. They've got pre-order bonuses for the movie. And I'm not
stupid.
I'm not sure I've heard of.
I actually thought that was a joke.
No, they indeed have pre-order bonuses. I'm not sure there's a season pass available for the movie. There might be. I'm not going to rule it out.
So they're going to give you the first 40 minutes, and then the rest is going to be another $7.50 for each of the next 4 bits.
I think I'll just wait for the DLC or the Game of the Year.
Yeah, you want a cushion with that chair, because that's going to cost you extra. But for instance, here is so there are different tiers, right? Like things you can order, and so for $40, you can get your movie ticket, a T-shirt, a watch, an Assassin's Creed watch, and the script. You can get a copy of the script. So that's one of your pre-order packages. They start as low as $15. I'm not sure. I think that's probably just movie. The movie item there, but then they go up with there's hoodies, there's all sorts of different with that 15 you also get the script, which I'm sure is going to be just a total gem. So movie ticket and script, you want to spend
it. A digital script, just by the way.
Oh, okay. That's a good heads up. You want to get maybe a little sexier. You've got a pretty BA looking hoodie for $120. That it looks kind of cool. You want the hidden blades? Well, that'll cost you $60. You want to get real crazy? There's a $600 statue of his Aguilar. the Spanish version of Michael Fassbender. How tall is it? It doesn't say how tall it is. It looks probably like a 8 to 12 inch tall statue. Or you really want to go nuts? For $1,200, you can get yourself a Spanish crossbow from Ubisoft. What they used as it's a 1-to-1 scale of the crossbow used in the movie. It's 18 inches long. It's I don't believe it works.
Okay, I was going to say that's going to be fun getting through customs.
Yeah, I mean it nowhere in the description does it say that it actually fires bolts, but it's entirely possible. I guess I don't know. So yeah, there you guys go. Pre-order bonuses. Just I'm waiting for the season pass. I'm going to see if maybe it goes on discount. Maybe games with gold at some point. Movies with gold.
You're probably better off waiting 6 months and see if they bring out the movie of the year version.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I bet. So anyway, I am looking forward to the movie, but this is just silly. It happened again today,
too. People don't buy these.
I do too. Right?
Please, listeners, don't buy these. Don't encourage this behavior.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? The last thing I'll say about this is just the whole. It happened again today on Twitter, where Xbox, the official Xbox Twitter account said, "Hey, whatever movie just came out today, Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising or whatever, is available in theaters today. Pre-order the DVD right now on Xbox." I'm like, God, really? Come on, movie literally just hit theaters. It's still warm in the reel, and
but Ghost Recon Wildlands coming out maybe in 2018. Pre-order today in 2015.
I don't know.
Let us make money with your money for 3 years.
Drives me nuts. Now that being said, I technically pre-ordered Mighty Number 9 because that is, it's a Kickstarter, and that essentially is what I'm paying for, right? I just buy the minimum to get myself a copy of the game. So that is like a 3-year-old pre-order that I helped support. I officially got my email with the survey saying, "Hey, how do you want that game?" So this indeed might be happening. I'm not ruling it out yet. I want to see the download bar go, and I want to see it hit 100%. But Terrigan, it looks like you'll be able to add this to your queue of backwards games or backlog of games. Did you cancel your pre-order?
Yeah, I'm still staying firm on my canceled pre-order on that one.
Good for you. Stay strong. All right. I got a bunch of EA news here. Sounds like they got a little excited this week. There's some fun stuff here. So we'll start with the funny news. DICE, this is in regards to our favorite titled Battlefield game, Battlefield 1. There was an article here on IGN where it was an interview with EA studio boss Patrick Soderlund, and he said that the pitch to do the World War I thing was quote unquote absolutely rejected. They pitched it to Sutherland, and he's like, "When the team presented me the idea of World War I absolutely rejected it. I said World War I is a trench war. It can't be fun." And I'm like, I feel like all of us actually said that. Like, really, how are you gonna make trench war fun? So what DICE decided to do then, and this is we're talking a set of stones on you. It's like, you know what? Forget what you have to say. I'm going to go make a demo, and I'm going to show you how fun trench war is. So they went ahead and just made a prototype of a slice of the game for him to take a look at. He says, the team continued and persisted, and in fact, the fact that this can be fun showed up with a very short demo that convinced me this was at the right path. The good news is whenever you take creative risks and it works, you can actually get substantial success. I got some respect for that.
I do too. They really believed in it and did it.
That really surprises me that they actually went ahead and just said, forget that. I think it can be really fun. Here, I'm going to show you. I mean, that's like a lot of resource, a lot of work. And after he already said no.
Well,
like,
and I don't know. I feel like that says something like, especially with like a money printer like Battlefield, that they weren't like terrified that they're all going to get fired or something, like because they just wasted whatever a month or something making this demo.
Yeah.
No, they probably did it on their off time, to be honest.
Oh, maybe.
But still, I like the idea.
I it almost makes me interested in buying it, but it's still going to have $60 worth of DLC, and
it's still a stupid name. I mean, they could have called it Battlefield World War One or Battlefield 1914 or something.
Yeah.
Battlefield 1. Way to break the continuity, man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Put a year on the end of it, or Battlefield. If they wanted it 1, Battlefield WW1, and then just call it 1.
Yeah. Battlefield Trench Warfare Edition.
Modern Trench Warfare. Anyway, some other EA news this week is it's because of Investors Day. That's why they were just talking to all their investors. They've extended their deal with Coldwood Studios. They're the people who made Unravel. And then they, so it was like, oh, hey, what are they working on? Well, they confirmed that they're indeed working on an Unravel sequel. So we get to see a little more of Yarny. I'm not sure he's going to, be as charming on stage as he was at E3 last year. But, I'll have to get on playing the game. The game looks like a ton of fun. So that's why I bought it. But yeah, expect a little more Unravel in the future. And as it happened last year, and it's going to happen again this year, EA Access is going to be free for all Gold members during E3. So from June 12th to June 22nd, you will, if you're a Gold member, you will have access to the EA Access Vault. So there is some free gamer score for you.
That's a pretty substantial window of time.
It's a nice chunk of time. It absolutely is.
Just enough to get people hooked.
Yep.
That's pretty much what it is too. And it's, I'm curious how successful it's going to end up being because they did it last year, you got to think that they had some pretty good retention or people who bought in. I mean, because it's not, $30 for the whole year. If you liked some of those games, or now you have a game save in there and you're like, it's only $30. I enjoyed myself. And, maybe you're hot and heavy for a month or two and then forget about it. Well, you already paid your $30. I mean, I wonder how much retention they ended up having for using that. I don't know.
The thing I find with EA Access is that if you're not really into sports games, then their catalog isn't that great.
No, not really.
Or in a lot of cases, I already have the games, so it didn't really appeal, and that's why I've never kind of looked into it.
Same.
Yeah, it's the same as me, and I honestly just kind of prefer to own my stuff anyway, so
that too.
Kind of part of it.
But I like the model, and if I didn't actually already own all the games that I wanted out of that model, then I'd certainly.
No, I agree that the model is very good.
Yeah, it's a great model.
So, is there anybody else who's interested in the model?
Well, yeah, speaking of which, there has been some talk about other publishers talking to EA about getting in on that, on EA Access and on the Origins as well, to basically potentially spread their games via EA Access. So you could potentially be seeing other publishers in there. I don't know names specifically, but there have been some rumors of
so because I read that as, I mean, the way you have it written here, it was just like Ubisoft going like, hey, it's a pretty cool system. How's it working? Because we got a lot of games. Or Activision, hey, how's it? But you're suggesting it's kind of smaller publishers who are like.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the big ones.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have any names. But the point of it is that they are looking at essentially using the existing EA Access. So they're not looking at setting up their own version of it. They're actually looking at using EA Access to distribute their games, which I think is really good news for EA Access people, and certainly makes it more appealing to me, particularly for a bunch of those games that I'm interested in.
Do you think Sony is going to be interested in? I wonder how, now that they're seeing it.
Probably not.
Yeah, now that Sony's seeing it, and you can argue what is successful and how they feel about it and stuff, but you got to wonder Yeah, if anyone internally is second guessing their decision to say no, your idea is stupid and I don't want it on my system, because it seems
I'm
pretty popular
with that. If big publishers like that are going to like cooperate with EA and use their existing system, that kind of makes me wonder how much Microsoft is charging EA to do something like this. Because if the other guys are talking to EA like, hey, we want to get in with you and pay you a commission instead of, and that's their direct competition, less so than Microsoft. You got to wonder.
Yeah, you'd wonder how the distribution works, though. It may very well be that it's distributed by Microsoft servers and that there is a fee per, volume that is distributed. So it wouldn't really matter to Microsoft because as long as it's being distributed via their system, they get their cut regardless. So if there are more games available in that and more people are downloading them, then there's more cut for Microsoft.
Well,
so
I imagine they would have like a kind of a download volume cost plus a kind of a setup / minimum kind of yearly payment or whatever, just as kind of a privilege to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the thing that's interesting about that is putting it all under the one subscription model, I think, is the important thing. I don't think it'd be viable for Activision to have their own version of the service and then Warner Brothers to have their own version of the service and Ubisoft to have their own version of the service, because who's going to pay for 4 different services?
Only $5 a month. You get a lot.
Well, yeah, but
it's still look at like GameFly. You could get, for the cost of GameFly, you could get 3 of those. Yeah.
But I guess it kind of adds up whether or not it's worth it to some people to do that. I don't know. But for me, it's more appealing as a single point subscription service. If Microsoft actually had their own single point subscription service for all games, that would be ideal. I'd probably double the cost of gold and give me access to every single game that comes out on the platform. Hell yeah.
That would be pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean that's obviously probably not really viable, but certainly a subscription service that offers a lot of content like that would be great.
Well, so there's a tweet out there by NBA Kirkland who and I want to find it so I can give credit to who he heard it from. It was a podcast, and they were coming up with wild E3 predictions with. What Microsoft was planning on doing. And one of those concepts, because what they had suggested that there's going to be like 2 or 3 game changers, right? Isn't that what I think Mike Ybarra said? Or Aaron, I don't remember.
Substantial announcements, I think.
Yeah, and so people were kind of speculating like, what might that be? And so, I mean, even a podcast I listened to, Xbox Life, this Xbox Life podcast, they had some fun suggestions about. Of course, one of the most popular one is the Slim, right? And I feel like maybe I'm speaking for all of you, but for my stance, that's almost a guarantee. Like when I'm filling out my E3 bingo card, like a Slim Xbox is on my card. Yeah, I feel like that's
certainly a revision 2 of the Xbox One is almost certainly going to be announced. I can't see that being not announced. I don't think that that's a very substantial announcement though, because that's kind of expected at this point. It's far enough into the timeline for the console that you would release another like a variant of the original. So I don't think that's it. I don't think it's meaty enough to really be considered a substantial announcement. So what other ones have you got there?
So the one that he had mentioned, and I thought this was like my favorite one, is if Microsoft used Gold and made multiplayer free for everyone. So you could play games multiplayer for free, but you wouldn't have access to games with Gold. I mean, games with Gold would be, part of your Gold subscription. But everybody who had a silver account could play multiplayer for free.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
I don't think so.
I don't see it happening. I also don't see it as being big enough to really warrant. Like, it's not like it's not a big enough announcement. They could do that. They would probably lose a lot of revenue because a lot of people purely have gold for multiplayer. And you'd be targeting that at trying to attack Sony's model of, they've got their multiplayer attached to a subscription model now. So you'd be trying to target that, and I don't know that would really work. There's no real need to go in that direction, particularly loss of revenue like that.
With that, though, like, at least in my kind of personal group of friends, is a lot of my friends actually switched to Sony because multiplayer was free. A lot. Like, almost all of them did. By the end,
it really worked out well for them, didn't it?
Yeah. So, like, that's just my personal sample. But if that's kind of representative of even, maybe a quarter of the population, that's a lot of poached people. Because it was at the same time as your Xbox dies.
Yeah.
Because that's what they all did. They all bought the old ones. Yeah. Then they all died. And then they're like, well, I might as well just get a PlayStation because I don't care what. At that point, everything was on both platforms anyway. There were no exclusives kind of tying you to one. They didn't care about achievements like I did. So
yeah, and I mean, now you're at the point, and so credit to this was the at Windows Central guys. This is where NBA got this from, and it was enticing those current 360 owners, the people who haven't moved on yet, when those 360s are getting pretty long in the tooth. And so when it comes down, now it's, okay, well, do you buy an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4? Because, and they both are off, you have to pay for multiplayer in both of them. Now, could Microsoft do the same thing that PS3 did to them and try and poach back? And say, hey, multiplayer's free now. You like your yearly Madden, and now your 360's dead? Hey, you got an Xbox One here you can play for free. So, I don't know.
And I don't remember if I said it on the show or if that was when I was just talking to someone recently. But if I wasn't so invested in achievements, I would have bought a PS4 at this generation shift over an Xbox One. Yeah, totally. I think it was it had a better launch. I think it's just the fact that the console is not like the size of a room, is a nice perk. It didn't make you buy a Kinect. All the games are the same, more or less. So yeah, I think other than the controller, 360 controller is still my favorite controller, but I could have lived with it.
Yeah, I hate the PlayStation controller.
Yeah, the PS4 ones are a little bit better. They're a little nicer. I used one a few weeks ago, but still, I much prefer the 360 layout.
I could see it. Some of the other things they suggested was, Oculus compatibility.
See, this is the one that I think will be the big meaty one. My theory is that they will release a hardware. Essentially a plug-in hardware update, which is a graphical update, and it plugs straight into an Oculus Rift and provides Oculus Rift support and VR support. That is my sort of feeling, or at least my biggest prediction for E3, and that would be a pretty significant one. Microsoft has already partnered with Oculus Rift to provide controllers for the Oculus Rift retail kit, so there's obviously already links between the two, and I could see it as being the sort of the next wave. PlayStation, of course, have got their own sort of VR thing going on too, so it's probably going to be an E3 of VR, at least.
Especially because VR is so trendy now. Well, that was when I was at GDC. Like half the floor was VR. It's crazy.
I don't know if I sent you that picture of Mike Zuckerberg walking to the stage, and basically everybody had VR headsets on.
I didn't see that.
Like a Borg moment.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I mean, and E3 is right around the corner, guys. I'm excited. One thing that I saw on Reddit this week that I thought was interesting, and it's kind of a common movement now for your brick and mortar stores. So like GameStop, Best Buy, whoever, is they're kind of trying to stay ahead of this digital marketplace. And in one effort that they're doing, so when Overwatch releases here, they are selling you the game early on Monday night, right? It's like 7 p.m. or something. So you can go home and download it for when the servers go live at midnight and have it ready to go. I'm shocked this wasn't thought of earlier, or if they had to like figure out a way legally to do it where people could walk home and start the install but wouldn't be able to load it. I mean, because the digital marketplace, if you want to get in on a game like immediately, once we were able to start pre-downloading, I mean, it blew physical copies out of the water, unless you liked physical for whatever reason. But like, if you were itching for, the new Call of Duty and you could preload it back in, mid-October before the November release, like, man, that was the way to go. Now, of course, when you signed on at midnight, the servers crashed, as every launch game I've ever seen. But suffice to say, you might have gotten lucky and got in on that if that was your thing. And so finally, it sounds like brick and mortar stores are trying to curb that a little bit and say, hey, why don't you show up at 7? We'll let you walk out with the game. So
see, I'm big on this as a big physical supporter. See, the thing I thought they would do is just let you preload the game and you can't start it unless you own it. Why can't you just download anything you want and preload any game you want? Because you can't start it anyway. You just get your disc, pop it in, you're good to go. Well, that was like with Project Spark. I had a digital copy of Project Spark on my console, but it wouldn't launch because I don't have a license for it. As soon as my disc came in the mail, I pop it in, it goes. So it's the same thing. The disc is just your license. So if you want to have the physical disc, you can just go walk down to the store at midnight, come back at midnight 05 and pop it in, you're good to go.
Do you think that works then if you digitally pre-order, download it, and then cancel your pre-order?
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
Does it pull it off your system?
I didn't know you could cancel a digital pre-order, but yeah, probably.
All you need is to be able to verify a license in one way or another. The actual content on your console is the same whether you download it, pre-order, or install it off the disc.
I wonder if that works.
The interesting thing for me here is that Microsoft can selectively disable a game remotely, even if you've got the disc. That's what I find interesting. Because
was there a case of that happening?
Well, I mean, they're implying that if they're selling it ahead of time, so they're selling it the day before it's released to allow you to pre-install it, then they must be disabling it from being launched.
Servers aren't live. That's why.
Yeah.
So nobody can play it. I mean, you can probably start the game up.
And it's like 4 hours before. It's like 4 hours before launch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I thought that was a case of they can shut off games, which I'm pretty sure they could anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure they could.
Yeah, no, I bet they absolutely could. So, Terrigan, let's wrap up the news here with your. Is this your most anticipated game coming up? No, you like Mirror's Edge, but
I do. But I have been looking at this and sort of eyeing off and being jealous of the PC players who've had this for a while. But the Horizons expansion and also the base 1.6 expansion for update for Elite Dangerous is coming out on June the 3rd. The Horizons is actually essentially a season of releases. So there's about five different sort of chapters or sections they're going to release with it, and 2 of them are becoming available on June the 3rd at that time. So Planetary Landings, which is a whole new sort of feature allowing you to buy a little vehicle and you can land on planets and drive around and do stuff, and the Engineers release, which is essentially a random number generator for buffing up your add-ons for your ships and stuff like that. So that's all happening, and there's a lot of other changes as well behind the scenes, improvements to missions and AI improvements and things like that are all coming. So, yeah, it's quite exciting.
What exactly did the early access stuff or the game preview get you? Is it just the physics engine? Is that what you purchased, and now these are all like additional content that you need to purchase, or are these part of what is considered the main game?
Are
these brand new games?
No, the Horizons are an expansion to the main game, but the main game has all like missions and power play and all that sort of stuff. Even things like power play though came in later, so that's been an addition to the main game that you didn't have to pay anything extra for. It was just an add-on that they brought in over time. So they've got a lot of plans for the things they're going to add to the game. And they've got a roadmap for that, for things that will be added to the base game regardless. But there's the Horizons expansion, which has a bunch of these sort of major updates. So, yeah, such as the planetary landings engineers. I think they're looking at things like multi-pilot ships, so you can have multiple people flying the one ship, and you can get up and walk around your ship, and fighter pilots inside your ship, so you can have a big ship and have smaller ships within it, and that sort of stuff is all coming as part of this Horizons kind of release. But the base game itself is also receiving updates over time, so it's getting better AI, and the mission structures are changing, and they add all sorts of other extra bits to it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I said, a lot more news than we typically want to cover, but it was kind of fun stuff that we wanted to touch in. Of course, we've got a huge array of listener feedback to get into, so let's move into that. So, listener feedback, we're going to start with some comments. And actually, we got a new listener who reached out to me, Berna Bros. I remember his name from the UHH. He says, hey, just started listening to the podcast. Good stuff. He made it to the Elite Eight in the UHH and lost to Clowntastic, right? He got 20 out of 20 in the Elite Eight round, but he was beat out by just a couple of hours. There's a fascinating back and forth in the threads about it. I won't go into it here, but strategy and whatnot. Yeah. So you're free to go into that. But hey, we appreciate you listening, Berna. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for reaching out.
Just a little side note on that. I don't know if you followed any of the controversy in the UHH regarding Clowntastic.
Oh, there's lots of controversy.
Well, this was actually
I didn't see.
Yeah, Clowntastic actually got reported for, or he got investigated for cheating, and
non-stat.
Yeah, and he was actually put onto non-stat for a little while there, but it's been resolved now, and he's still competing. But there was a bit of a kerfuffle about that for a while there, and he may well have been disqualified, which would have made the quarterfinals, or was it semi-finals actually, and now bit of a non-event for some people.
Yeah, that would have been pretty obnoxious. But we're down to the final four right now, and actually one of the matches is already settled. Did the other one get? Do you get closed out too?
No, I don't know if you looked at the
those are some big achievements. Oh my god!
I don't think anybody's getting 20 on that week, but that won't be resolved until.
Yeah, that one. That is such a brutal list. Oh my gosh! But Mad Eye Pad Eye made it to the final four. He got beat by Kaku.
Yeah. So congrats.
Good on you, Mad Eye. That's quite a run.
Yeah, good stuff.
Fun. Yeah, I'm glad that it's nice to see. I mean, it's working pretty well from what I see. I mean, a couple of hiccups here and there, but lists are coming out. I mean, there's still a lot of different games on those lists and interesting achievements. Anyway,
it's also good that everyone still got matched up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see in the final. I think one of them, if a particular pair of people get matched in the final, they actually have one of the worst matches.
Oh, really?
Like they've only got like an 8. So they're not quite off the scale, not rated at all, but they've got a very low compatibility. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had a couple of emails regarding our discussion last week about day one consoles. That. Urban, you had thought maybe there was some orientation concerns. You want to?
It was regarding Tatey. He'd actually sort of mentioned that he was having some problems with his. Funnily enough, coincidentally, after Crandy was complaining about his day one console, and Tatey was saying, "Oh, it's all fine." Oh, wait, it just started breaking. We discussed, or it seemed to me the way he was describing it was that he was basically turning it from like vertical to horizontal to try and get it to work, and that actually didn't turn out to be the case. What he's having to do is tilt the console. He's got it horizontal and has always had it horizontal, but he has to tilt the front of it up. So he pulls the front up, and it lets the disc slide into the drive. And Prue has actually also mentioned exactly the same issue with the day one consoles, is that it just won't accept discs. Like the disc mechanism won't pull the disc in, so he actually has to use gravity to force it to go in. So that seems like it might be a running theme for day one consoles.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
A lot of running themes with day one consoles.
Prue also mentions in his email about, because of that, he's hoping for a new Microsoft, what we had talked about earlier, the Slim version, or some type of new version, because he's he's just not feeling his day one console anymore. He'd like to maybe upgrade and get a new piece of hardware here. And he has some ideas about, what would you like on a redesign that might actually, the improvements that you're looking at. And one of his suggestions here, of course, thinner is on the list. I don't really care about thinner. Mine's fine as it is. But the one that's really exciting, more USBs on the side or front panel. I'm so sick of having to, I've got the plug for my, controller charger, and I can't use anything else with it. So if I have to use a Disney Infinity portal, or I have multiple controllers that I want to idle for a while,
there's this funny little thing you can buy. It's called a
I don't want a splitter. I want it on my box.
Okay, fine.
You shouldn't need a splitter.
Yeah, I got a splitter. I don't want one.
And there's that whole front panel with nothing on it.
Right. It's a dumb flat panel.
Yeah, that gets stupid. Make a matte console, please. Glossy is the worst thing. It looks so nice when it's brand new, but as soon as you touch it, it's ruined.
Well, if you're touching your console, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, stop touching it.
Well, you got to turn it on.
You don't use your controller.
Use your controller.
Use
Kinect.
And you only have to touch. You only have to touch one little spot on it. You'd have to rub your hands all over the front.
Yeah, but then you get scratches on top. And
what the hell do you do to your console?
What are you going to do with
nothing?
At some point, you're going to have kids, and they're going to destroy your stuff, and you're going to have a real problem.
There's going to be a vault.
You're in big trouble. Hey, speaking of kids, Lord Chapello, what is this comment here? Is this legit? I'm not happy about this.
Yeah, I think they might have already been scanned in, but there's the last two drops for Disney Infinity, I believe, will have achievements, or at least the Dory DLC.
Dory, and there's a Marvel one too for Civil War.
Okay, well, there we go.
Also, yeah.
Is there play sets with achievements on them?
Yeah, and the Civil War one, I believe, was $30 at Best Buy.
Wow.
It was on sale today. Yeah, or it's on sale right now.
The Civil War one?
Yeah, I think so.
It just came out.
All those play sets are, I think, $30 normal.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, well, they're probably on sale because Disney Infinity is wrapping it up. But
well, that's the thing. That's why as I saw it, I was like, I clicked on the thing. I'm like, oh, cool. You're having oh crap, was that yesterday? It was like a deal of the day thing or something. But they had a big Disney Infinity sale going on, and I looked at the toys, and I'm like, oh, cool. You could get Kylo Ren for $8 or whatever, and. Oh, yeah, they still have it on sale. 63 items on sale, although this ends on Sunday. So, sorry, you're all screwed when this comes out. But so you're saying two of those have achievements now? Because I didn't even bother with the add-ons because I was like, oh, well, the other ones, the Disney 2.0 didn't have anything with their play sets.
Well, I guess the benefit is it should work on both platforms if you do get one of them, so...
Yeah, I just didn't want to spend any more money on.
Yeah. And here I was still on the fence about getting Disney. It's like, yeah, maybe if I have to buy a whole.
Well, but at least at least you know that's the end.
But there's nothing on. So there's nothing scanned in the system right now.
Yeah, there is the 360 version.
Oh crap!
Because the 360 achievements go live a lot earlier than so I guess it's possible the one isn't getting them, but I feel like that's very unlikely.
I also feel like that's unlikely. Well,
pretty much not going to happen, unlikely. But, you never know.
How did you get to the 360 version from the one version?
Usually they'll have a link on the sidebar for
I know,
versions.
But it's not there.
And if it's not there, then it hasn't been linked properly, or sometimes those sidebars hide for various obscure reasons.
You know what? It might be like hidden. I have a weirdly goofy setup on my sidebar. All right, that's neither here nor there. Man, that'll be a bummer if that's the case, but hey, if there's a sale, maybe. So, Crandy, as part of our musically themed show, why don't you get things started here? We have a comment from Connect Kid 33.
There's kind of, I don't know, I guess kind of a story behind this is I like to tinker, kind of, with stuff like that.
Well, let's first go into what that is.
Okay, yeah. Well, what it is I came up with a system to have an output from a computer go into either a Guitar Hero drum set or a Rock Band MIDI Pro adapter and play songs for you. So so it started out with, I like to tinker with this stuff. And then there were a few other things that went into it. So at the time, I have an electronic drum set. So I have a bit of experience with electronic drum sets, how they communicate with Rock Band, and through that learned a bit about how they communicate with MIDI. So
and
I played drums.
Just some technical background there. MIDI is actually a very long-standing protocol that's used for musical devices, primarily to talk to each other and sync timing and play things. So, like, you have your synthesizers will talk to your drum machine, and they will sync up together using MIDI. It's a protocol that's used for that sort of thing.
Yeah. So with that, that was one of the things that went into it. So I had the kind of enough background to grasp the concepts. Further back even than that, when Rock Band Network launched, I started looking into, I was playing around with Frets on Fire at the time and charting songs for Frets on Fire. So I had done a little bit of that. I never really took off, but I had enough knowledge to kind of get the gist of how it works. Then Rock Band Network launched, where they basically released all the tools that Harmonix uses to chart songs, which I thought was super cool. I didn't have any music that I could license, but I thought it was interesting. So I spent some time on it and I downloaded the software. And this is years before I even started to think about this project. But I downloaded the software, kind of checked it out, learned what it was used for what, etc. So that was kind of my background on the knowledge of, when I came up with this idea, I had the background of how Rock Band songs are made, how MIDI works, and the software used that songs are charted in. So the other thing that went into it is I was moving out of the country. I wanted to finish up. I've had a very, very long running goal to finish all achievements in all Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. This is probably like 8 years running. I'll do it one day. It's like Graw.
Yeah.
You're going to get to that after Graw, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Drink.
So yeah, with that, I was moving and not bringing any of my drum sets. So I had my electronics kit. Before that, I had Ions. Before that, I had a stock Rock Band 1 kit with the mouse pad mod and a custom pedal. So I'm not bringing any of those with me. I'm moving into a small apartment without any space for them, even if I could bring them with me. So what am I going to do about my last drum achievements? And all these achievements were achievements that I could have done. It's just a matter of I need to practice some, and I just don't have time to do that right now because I'm getting ready to move, because it was kind of it wasn't long planned in advance. But it was long enough that it wasn't just like, okay, bye, I'm moving. So I was thinking, okay, well, I can probably develop this project in less time than it would take me to practice these songs. And if I can't, then I'll just scrap it and figure something out later, like I would have had to do anyway. So I started tinkering around and looking into kind of reverse engineering a Rock Band song. And I figured, okay, well, what's the best way to do that? You learn how to make a Rock Band song, because it's going to be exactly the same. So I remembered that the software they used was Reaper. Or one of them. There's Reaper and Magma, and I think there's one other one. I'm not sure what the other ones did. I just remembered Reaper charted MIDI because that's where I started. Then I don't remember where I got the original files. I think they were always from the Frets on Fire forums, because somebody had charted the entire, like basically every real release of a Rock Band Guitar Hero game has been charted by someone on Frets on Fire, and each one of those files has the original MIDI file in it that the game reads, just like it would on an Xbox. So I figured, okay, well, every one of those notes is going to be associated with a line in the file, so I should just be able to take those files, flip the notes around, and move them to say, okay, well, if line 100 in the unedited file is the red note, and then on the MIDI Pro adapter, the red note's line 20, I should just be able to take line 100, switch it to line 20, play it back. I mean, it kind of worked. It took many attempts and things, so I don't even remember what my biggest issues were when I started. I think it was just getting it to communicate in general, and then the beats per minute were a problem too. I don't remember.
I've actually done my own sort of reverse engineering of a lot of the Guitar Hero and Rock Band stuff, and the beats per minute. Contrary to popular thought, bands don't play at constant beats per minute. They vary just because they're human and timing is different. And so basically, whenever they were charting these songs, they actually had to vary the BPM ever so slightly across every bar to keep them in sync with the real music that they were playing in the background. So I can certainly understand you having some problems keeping the BPM tracked properly with the songs that you were trying to emulate.
Because I think what I was doing is I was cutting the notes from the unedited file, pasting it into a new project, which just has a steady BPM, and couldn't figure out why. Because it would hit the first few notes, and then it would go off, and it would just never catch up.
Yeah.
Where if you edit them in the original project, the BPM stays because the BPM is in that project already. So once I figured that out, I got it going. Then syncing took a bit to figure out, and sensitivity with the knob, and velocity was another one that was a problem. Is some of them they had a very low velocity, and the MIDI adapter wouldn't pick them up. So I had to figure out that I need to change that. But yeah, so basically,
velocity in MIDI terms is, say, if you imagine a keyboard and a piano, the velocity is how hard you hit that note. So hitting it harder would be louder, and if you have a low velocity, that would be a quieter note. And so what you're saying is that the translation of those quieter notes was not making it through to the MIDI adapter through to the console.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's more with particularly with drum sets to eliminate crosstalk. Because the triggers are so sensitive that if you don't have it set, because you always have to set up the drum set to ignore very low velocity notes, because if you don't,
you pick up everything. They're
just all going to be setting them off all the time, because you hit a pad. It's like, yeah, it absorbs a lot of shock, but it also moves the frame, and it rattles all the other pads just a little bit. So I think that's kind of what that hardware implementation is just they have a certain threshold that it was not meeting, because drum sets tend to have lots of crosstalk. So yeah, then I got it going and started publishing files, and it kind of really took off. Like a lot of positive, a lot of negative, probably more positive than negative. I've been accused of such things as ruining the music genre forever. Single-handedly, I did that apparently.
Pretty amazing. It's not Activision. It's all you, Randy.
Yeah, that's me. Despite this launching, like, I don't know, a few years after it was kind of all generally considered dead. So then from there, of course, then you start to get more and more interested in like, okay, well, I know Guitar Hero drum sets have a MIDI input. So I got a Guitar Hero drum set. Because I actually didn't have one. No, I did. I did get one. I got I still don't actually have one, but I have a heavily modified drum brain. So it's the brain part hooked up to a bunch of other plugs in a big box that I can plug other drum sets into. So I can plug my ions into it. I can plug my electronic kit into it. I can plug MIDI inputs in. So that's kind of what I have. It still functions essentially the same as a Guitar Hero kit. It just doesn't have any pads physically attached to it. So I used that and played around. That took a long time to figure out, to get that working. But then I got those. It was a lot less popular than the MIDI Pro adapter just because at the time they're so cheap. I think they were like maybe $20, if that. So it was, and the library was much larger. Then of course I moved on to keyboard, vocals. Neither of those really, there was enough for the keyboard achievements. Vocals are tough, and never cracked Pro Guitar. Pro Guitar uses some crazy bizarre setup I've never seen, and not really sure.
I wonder if
that'll ever get cracked.
I wonder if that's purely an actual USB guitar, because you can get guitars that do have USB and will basically USB out to MIDI. So I wonder if it's actually using that.
Well, see, the guitar, I have the Squier guitar. I don't have the plastic one. Yep. And it works as a MIDI guitar, but I could never get anything to capture the MIDI. So I don't think it's actually, now correct me if I'm wrong with this, because this is beyond my actual knowledge of MIDI and this is speculation, I think it's a MIDI controller, not a MIDI instrument, which is why nothing would capture it. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
Like it doesn't have any built-in sounds; it just has to go through other things' sounds, and it just controls them.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But that would be essentially like just a dumb MIDI keyboard in that sense, because you can have just a MIDI keyboard that doesn't actually have any sounds, but it's just a trigger point for other.
Yeah, and you have to run it through a synthesizer for it to do anything, which it does work. I've seen videos of people use. Apparently, the Squier guitar is actually like one of the best MIDI guitars ever made, and people really like musicians that like MIDI guitars will like seek them out for music. Because it's got a bunch of buttons on it too, so it's not just a guitar, but and it's like a normal guitar. It's not like some crazy plastic thing. But yeah, so that one never got cracked. Since then, pretty much every substantial song has been charted, which is really cool. Because it got to a point where I just didn't have time to really do it anymore, but I made it since I developed it. I knew how to do it, like how to make all this stuff. So I made tutorials for people to make their own, submit them to me, and then I posted them. Now it's pretty much, I don't really do anything with it anymore, partially due to time, partially due to just kind of everything's done. So yeah, that's kind of the story of the MIDI stuff. I'm probably forgetting something. Oh yeah, another thing that I wanted to do with it was to be able to do all of Rock Band 1, because that's a stupid set of achievements that requires 2 people to play through an absurd amount of gameplay. Yep. And I figured, well, hey, I can make this work with Rock Band 1. And I still haven't done it, but when I do go back to do it, I now can, because all the charts are there. So that's kind of
nice.
Cool. Yeah, and I don't know. Do you guys think I'm missing anything substantial?
No, I think that about covers it. I guess.
Oh yes, there's one thing. It's not considered cheating. That's been.
Yeah, it's been
confirmed by the investigations team. You can do this.
Public threads basically debunking any sort of threat of cheating with that particular method. Yeah, it's not.
Now,
I just want a personal admission that you ruined music. That's all I want. I just want you to tell.
Okay, well, I'm Crandy, and I've ruined music gaming forever.
And music in general.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, another thing is I have cracked Rock Band 4. I've successfully macroed Rock Band 4. I'm not going to release that info, but I have done it. Just going to put it out there. I did it before it launched. I had it set up before it launched. And the day of launch, I confirmed that it does in fact work flawlessly. I can also use ions and electronic kits in Rock Band 4. Day one. I didn't actually confirm that, but if the macros work, the other kits work too.
Okay.
Great. Well, let's move into some of the other questions we've had. This was a question from our backlog of last week, and NBA Kirkland put a comment on the my friend feed saying, "Hey, where do you draw the line for having someone else get you an achievement?" He says, "I personally don't want anyone to pop anything on my profile, but that being said, if my nephew's over and we're taking turns on Fruit Ninja, and he pops a random achievement or helps me get to 10,000 fruit or whatever, he's like, I'm not going to sweat that. But he does draw the line of like going out of your way to ask someone to do something because it's beyond their ability. He says, or I just don't want to grind that out. So how does the rest of the community feel about this? Do you guys have any strong feelings?
So we're a representative of the entire community.
Yes.
No,
yes.
but
We speak for the entire community here.
The entire achievement community. We're going to come to a definitive answer.
well, you've already just told us that you're a dirty cheater. So where do you?
Yeah. Well, some people consider that cheating, but in terms of TA, it's fine.
For me, I don't really see a problem with it unless it is consistent. It's like I think that if you're getting someone to load up your profile whilst you're sleeping and continue to play games and put gamer score on, and maybe you have 3 people rotating so that the same account is being used and getting achievements 24 hours a day, I think that's a little bit wrong. That's a little bit against the whole sort of spirit of what our hobby is about. Getting someone to come over and get past expert on Jordan on guitar because I can't, not really too fussed about that. That's just something I couldn't do. That's probably, I think, for the occasional one-offs and a few ones that are too difficult or you just need some help with or whatever, I don't really see that as being a big problem. But certainly the professional achievers that have people working on their accounts, if such a thing even exists, I think that's sort of a problem. So, yeah, that's kind of my feel on it. I don't really have a particularly strong opinion further than that.
I'm kind of with you. I don't know. Or especially with NBA Kirkland here, with my son playing on my tag, it's like, yeah, if they're doing stuff and working towards something that it just happens to pop, so be it. I don't have a problem with that. There was part of me was thinking to, hey, boy, I should have someone do Grand Pearl Poobah for me because I don't, A, have the time to set that up, or B, want to do it. And I was like, well, no, that's where I draw the line. Asking someone else to do something that is, it's not necessarily difficult related because, there's pretty good ways spelled out online about how to do that. But asking someone to go effectively do something for me, I'm not comfortable with that. It's because, like you said, it's a personal achievement. It's something, if I'm just not that good, I'm not that good. But I'm not going to turn away a buddy playing Rock Band who is way better than me and unlocks an achievement for getting note streaks or something that I can't do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to yell at him.
Well, what's the difference there, though? I guess you're asking for someone to do that specifically, or is it just that you don't mind the accidental unlocks that come from somebody playing on your account?
Yeah, it's the accidental. Like, if I had said, had that buddy come over and say, hey, you're really good at Rock Band, could you play these songs for me? Like, I draw the line there of, like, specifically asking for help because it's my gamer tag. That's a representation of my history of gaming. And so
how well you got that, got those 10 bottles down in Hannah Montana. Yep.
Right. But I did it.
Yeah.
That was me doing it. And, it's just things like that where, yeah, there might be some one-offs where it's like, oh, you like you said, you did Buckethead? That's great. And I was like, well, no, actually, my nephew came over. He's way better than me. He wanted to show me how good he is, and so he unlocked it. Okay, there might be a story there, but if it was like, if I actually went ahead and said, oh, yeah, no, I paid a guy to do Grand Pearl Poobah. Yeah,
see, that's just a bit silly, like paying someone
Come on,
to do
that's just dumb.
I guess the other place I'd probably draw the line there is whether or not you're actually involved in an active competition when it's done. If you are involved in a competition with another person, and you are getting other people to work on your profile to unlock these achievements, that's a really big no-no for me. I think that's really going against the spirit of competition. If you're just doing it for yourself, like if you're getting somebody to come over and unlock that Grand Pearl Poobah, and it's just for you, and you're not really competing with anyone else, and not being detrimental to anybody else other than ratios. Who cares? It's really not a big deal. But I think when you sort of you're abusing that sort of system to get an advantage over somebody else, or potentially, I think there are certainly some rumors about certain people who are high up on the leaderboards of Gamerscore that they actually have multiple people playing on their accounts to get those kind of scores up there. And those rumors have persisted for a long time for various people, and whether they're true or not is another question. But that sort of thing is really frowned upon, and I sort of frown upon that kind of thing because it sort of suggests that achievement is not really a sole effort. It doesn't really represent that one person anymore. And if you're not being honest about that, at least, then it kind of it belittles the work that people who are being honest about it and who are doing it for themselves. It belittles that kind of effort, I think.
Right, I agree.
For me, it's kind of where I draw the line is like, I'm totally fine with somebody helping you with an achievement. But when you get to the point where you're sharing, where it's like, okay, we're both playing all the time, or you're helping me on a regular basis, that's not okay. Because then you're just sharing an account. You're two people. You're not one person anymore. But for me, if my buddy can beat whatever game, can beat Death Smiles, and he wants to come over and play Death Smiles for me, or I ask him to come over and play Death Smiles for me, that's fine. I don't care. But if he's playing Death Smiles and then every other crazy shooter on my tag every weekend, that's different. Because now you're just sharing an account.
I mean, unless it's like blatant that you're sharing an account, like your gamer tag is two people's names.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a different thing, but in this case, it's like you just have an assistant all the time. Then I guess the other part where I draw the line is paying money. Is like that's kind of a different thing where it's like you shouldn't be paying somebody to do an achievement. Now, I could lean a little on that if it's like you're a hardcore completionist, you started this game ages ago, you just want it gone. Somebody says, "Hey, I'll do this for you for $10."
Hey, Randy, would you do Graw for me for $10?
No.
20?
Now, if you had said that when I was climbing one of the leaderboards, maybe, because it would have meant zero extra effort. But
slippery slope.
We do not condone account sharing here on Z2Z podcast.
25.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit more lenient with cleaning up old stuff versus saying, "Hey, can you come over and do this whole game for me?" Or it's like, "Hey, can you get this last achievement for me? It's too hard." Like
there is another aspect of this that I've just thought of: accessing delisted games.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's not really having someone play for you. It's more having them come over and sign in on your box so that you can download and play that game. I think,
but you could.
That's fine. But you could potentially have that person sign in.
Say if your friend has the license to delisted DLC X,
or your game sharing partner has a Windows 8 device.
So then you could say, "Hey, your buddy says, 'Hey, I'll do this delisted DLC for you,' and then you can play the base game." So, I mean, again, I'm more lenient if there's a reason behind it.
If there's a reason beyond
versus just another completion that you haven't started this, you haven't done it.
Yeah, so I was thinking of that Project Spark achievement where, I flew out to Australia for Terrigan to come and help me and use his Xbox because I did the requirements for the daily challenges 3 times, and Project Spark decided that it didn't want to sync up with my system, and so I found a friend, and we did it on his Xbox, and boom, there it goes. And it's like I don't feel like I've cheated myself because I did the requirements and something prevented me from getting it. So I certainly I'm totally okay with that because yes, I earned that achievement, although the timestamp is not when I actually did it. It's kind of like those done unlocking things, to tell you the truth.
So you've done unlocking via Australia.
Right, exactly. So
I guess there are some grey areas in the having other people unlock achievements there, but Yeah, I only really see the problem with if it's done for contests or it's done specifically because you're trying to get to the top of the world leaderboards, essentially.
Agreed. So speaking of which, Arsenic17 jumps onto your friend feed, right, Terrigan?
Yeah, he just asked whether we think that achievement hunting is a growing sort of hobby or whether it's kind of relatively constant. And it goes on to say, so in the last five plus years, he thinks 80 to 90% are still at it with a limited crowd of newbies. And also wonders about the psychological effect of beginning your hunt sort of 300,000 gamer score behind or whatever, and what that does to sort of newbies to the sport, I suppose. So what do you guys think about this?
I don't think it's growing rapidly. I don't think it's shrinking either. I think it is getting bigger, though. Just you see more mainstream mention of achievements and kind of emphasis on achievements, and I think that says something. Even if it's not a hardcore growth, it's still an interest and a growth in interest in general that eventually leads to the addiction that we have.
Yeah, we're certainly at the hardcore end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
there's achievement hunting in general. I think that. Because achievements are there, people are going to want to go for them. I don't think that necessarily the gamer score, like the pure gamer score or completionist, completionists are probably more prevalent than, say, a pure gamer score hunter.
Yeah.
As there are going to be people who want to get that 100%. They want that completion in games, whereas they probably don't care about how high the gamer score is. The pure gamer score hungry people are another class again.
Another thing
they're growing, but
another thing too is. In terms of the 300,000 score behind, I don't really think that's an issue because you always have your group of people you play with, you're always competing with them, and then there's always the milestones. Your first 100K. First 100K is like that's what everyone goes for. That's like the kind of coming of age as a hardcore achievement hunter is you hit 100K. It's easier than ever now, but that doesn't matter. It's still a big deal. You roll into that 6-digit club.
Yeah, so even so, I mean, the True Achievements Twitter account, they still celebrate their smaller milestones than that. People are putting up 50K or 75K, and that's that's.
I mean, I've seen 20Ks.
Yeah,
no, and I don't mean like the other ones aren't significant, but I mean that's something that even as a newbie that you can realistically strive for in a couple of years.
It's that nice, satisfying milestone.
Yeah, that's what you compete. You don't have to compete with everyone. You just compete with yourself for your milestone.
Well, and that's the thing I think about a lot of gamer score is that you're not generally, particularly once you sort of get into it as a kind of not a full-term time hobby, but it's once it becomes or once the bug bites, you are generally in it for yourself. I think most of the time you're working on your own set of goals and aims. You keep an eye on certain people, and there might be one or two people or friends that you're sort of chasing or whatever that might start it off even. But in the end, you're really only sort of battling yourself and your own perseverance, I guess.
Yeah, and I think just the generations have changed a bit too, where, I mean, the access to games media, the types of ways we consume content, Twitch and streams and these things. I mean, there's a different way to enjoy gaming where kind of when we started, it was multiplayer was just getting going, certainly for Terrigan and I. That there was not a good infrastructure for connecting with other people. So you're on your home tag putting up numbers, and then that number was on the internet. Like, yeah, you weren't gaming with other people, but you at least had this badge of honor to say, hey, look at my gamer score over there. Look at that game I have in my house. I completed it. And it's a one-player game, but yeah, I got all the achievements in that. You're losing a little bit of that with just how visible everything is with everybody. But, that just the types of games that people are playing have started to shift toward, the MOBAs, what this new wave of hero shooters, the Call of Duty's not hurting for cash. And although they're dwindling, their numbers are still astronomical. People who just enjoy the competitive nature of or esports for that matter. That their drive is to be the best or be competitive against other players, whereas an achievement hunter has a different motivation, and either it's completing games or scoring points or whatever. I also think that the hobby, the group is stagnant's the wrong word, but at least there's not really an attrition. It's treading water.
Yeah, I think keeping that in mind, that the overall gaming community itself expands, and I think that the gamer score focused group of that is always going to be a very small percentage of it, but that percentage will grow, like the actual numbers will grow, because it's essentially always a pretty static percentage of the overall population. So I would say that it's fair that there are always more gamer score hunters out there, but it's just that as a relative spectrum of the gamers, it's still always going to be pretty small. I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where there is one gamer score hunter for every 9 other players. It's much, much smaller than that. So it's growing, and I mean, you can just look at the numbers that end up, the numbers of people who have been subscribing to, say, True Achievements, for example. It's been consistently going up.
Yeah.
I don't know how you quite measure dead accounts on there. I don't think there's really any sort of measure of accounts that have gone sort of inactive. But it might be an interesting thing to see, just accounts that aren't adding gamerscore anymore as a metric compared to how many sort of people are actually on site. That would be something interesting to ask Rich, I think.
Agreed.
Yeah, and there are newbies as well. I mean, I know there's one person who I've sort of has been on my feed for a while, who is basically was purely Xbox One. They bought an Xbox One, got into gamerscore pretty much straight away, and they've actually gone and bought an Xbox 360 to get access to some of the easy gamerscore from that now. So there's new people coming in who are going back now. So
and I think you can kind of look at it the same way we got into it is it's less of, oh, what's this? Because the Xbox 360 was the first console to do it, but it's still the same thing. It's like, oh, this is fun. These are popping up. They're fun. Even you got to start somewhere. So when you get your new console, you start seeing these pop up, and you start collecting them, and you start getting more of them, and you get more into it, and you go back to the 360 in this case.
See, achievements are really the Pokemon of the gaming genre.
Yeah,
so you got to get them all.
Except no one ever will.
Right.
Those
so,
unattainables.
The Nighty kicked off my friend feed today with a question. He says, "Hey, I was extremely surprised that nobody saw the butterfly effect. I think he's talking about the Ashton Kutcher vehicle. Anyway, he says, what a bunch of time travel noobs, you guys. Jokes aside, though, time travel is my out-of-this-world passion. And like you, Freem, and your zombies, what is Urban and Crandy's out-of-this-world passion?" He also chimes and says, "Hey, I'm a kind of a conspiracy nut, too," which is a little bit of the time travel element that I enjoy. And Montana 97 says, "What? Conspiracy nut? Have we met before?" Anyway, what are you guys? Clearly mine zombies.
I guess we should define out-of-this-world passion first. What do we want to say that
well,
is?
A
not real kind of alternate world? Is that what we're...
I sort of took that to mean is like what sort of genre of whatever media or stories or whatever really kind of tickles your fancy. So I mean, obviously anything with zombies is Freem's thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
So
what do you guys got?
Oh well, okay. Well for me, I'm kind of I have a thing for kind of pretty poxy B-grade horror movies. Actually, believe it or not. But I've also I tend to like the more psychological kind of slow building horror kind of things. So I kind of actually like Paranormal Activity in that series, and that sort of slow kind of, not a lot happens, but what does happen is quite unnerving. So I guess that's probably.
I really didn't like this is particularly Paranormal Activity. I had a really bad experience with it. It's a very short story, so I'll just tell it here really quick. It's kind of a tangent.
I'll tell your story. You wet the bed.
No, it's actually quite the opposite. So I like going to horror movies in theaters. I think it's fun. And so I went with a group of friends, and this is my group of friends. We'd usually all go, and we, kind of go at night, have a good time, go to a movie. This was in high school, which is current, obviously, when Paranormal Activity came out. So there's a group of us, and we'd heard all these things. We didn't go opening weekend. Which all these things. Oh, it's so scary! Like people coming out of the theater crying. It's so scary. And so we're like, this is going to be good because, I think around that same time, there were a couple of other good horror movies. At least I thought were good. And so when we got there, sure enough, someone that we kind of knew came out of the theater crying, and we're like, this is going to be great. And then we go through the whole movie. We're like, when did it get scary? Like when does this
and
then it gets to the end and we're like, really? Oh. So that kind of hype killed it for me, and then after that it was dead to me. So it's not just the movie, it's combined with the hype and the bias from the hype, and that's why I don't like it.
I think that movie does best if you're watching it on a small screen with headphones on, and headphones that can really pick up the bass stuff that they use. Basically, anytime there's any activity, there's this kind of bass rumble, and it really does put you on edge if you.
I could see that.
Yeah. But yeah, I quite like those. I think not quite so B movies. I mean, I think The Ring, the movie, the Americanized version, is probably one of my top horror movies that have a bit of a kind of mystery psychological element to it, which I quite liked. But yeah, I'm a bit of a horror movie buff in that sense. Probably a bit of a sci-fi buff, but not as much.
What about you, Grandy?
For me, I like dystopian and cyberpunk things. So you can mix. I guess they're kind of dystopian kind of goes into cyberpunk. But games like I want to say not so much movies, because I don't feel like I can get into movies quite as much, but like a BioShock, like that's part of the reason, like it has to be super, super immersive for me. And that experience, like Syndicate and BioShock are going to be like my two, and like my two examples of like, this is perfect.
But Dishonored. Do anything for you?
I didn't do Dishonored. I haven't played it. What does it fall into?
It's a dystopian. I mean, cyberpunk influenced, a little more historical.
A little bit steampunky kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check that out because I have
less cyber, more steam.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, like BioShock is just like the best. So, and just I don't know, kind of the whole like dystopian thing is just. I don't know. It's like North Korea. I don't know. North Korea fascinates me. Like it's just, how does it exist? It's like a real dystopian place.
It
really is. Like it's just you got a great leader and everyone's starving. Like
it's funny.
But yeah, not so. I can't really think of any movies that come to mind off the top of my head, and I don't. There have been books that I want to read, but I never read things. So yeah, I don't think games are pretty much where it goes for me. But I'm looking forward to, what is it, Cyberpunk 2077? I think that one by CD Projekt. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, even though there's been nothing about it, I don't care.
Oh, you'll see some. There's been a few things.
There was that trailer like 3 years ago, but.
Well, I thought they just said they were on track to come out. Yeah, we joked about it.
No, they're working on it, and I think it's on track, but they just haven't really released much. Which I'm actually kind of glad they haven't, because I don't want to see it. But when it comes out, I'm going to be tempted to look at it. So the as little time between when they start releasing things and it's actually released, the better, because I don't want to ruin it for myself. But I am looking forward to that one.
Speaking of not ruining anything, NBA Kirkland asks, what are some of your favorite endings to video games?
Ooh.
Jay Stryker says, hey, to piggy off that, what are some of the worst ones there? And NBA says, maybe we can say that for next week, but if you got a good one, I want to hear it.
I got a good ending. It's
Without
Bioshock
ruining
Infinite. Bioshock Infinite. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin it because it's so good.
Would you say it's in the DLC ending?
Oh,
or the
yeah.
actual
No,
ending?
okay, both of them, actually. The actual ending is like, twist blows your mind. Then...
Oh, no. Now I know there's a twist.
I ruined it. And then the DLC is like, that twist is even better than the last twist. And it's and it's an ending to the series. It's so good. It's the best closure. It's perfect.
Worst game ending?
I know there are some. Let me think.
My favorite ending is one that
Progressive.
says achievement unlocked, 100 gamer score, completed everything. That's my favorite ending, right there.
Legit. Yeah.
Just finished.
In recent memory, and I think I mentioned this before, but Batman Arkham City, the ending of that was very, quite shocking. The ending battle, not so much, but the actual end of that story was pretty dramatic and shocking, and really did wrap up that sort of arc nicely. And it was really hard to see how they were going to do the next game after that, but they did. As for worst ending, I had one, but I've forgotten. No,
Assassin's Creed Brotherhood's on my list of worst endings.
actually, I think Assassin's Creed Revelations is probably on.
No, that's the one I meant. That's the one I meant. Yeah.
It's like it was so not a revelation.
Demon Souls.
That's right.
Demon
You had mentioned
Souls.
that one before.
I've mentioned that one before too.
Although I do have to give a sort of little bit of a shout out to the ending of Halo 2. That was not a great ending.
The other one, I don't remember what it was, but I remember being really annoyed with it was Halo 4. Whatever the ending to Halo 4 was annoyed me. I don't remember.
I actually remember the ending of Halo 4. I don't remember the ending of Halo 5 at all.
I didn't play Halo 5. That was it for me. Halo 4, I was done.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily bad. It's just forgettable. The ending of Halo Reach was pretty good.
Oh, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. That ending, I loved it.
Yeah,
That was a great one.
That one's really hits you in the feels. That one.
Yep, I like that
Grand
one.
Theft Auto 4. Horrible ending. Both of them.
One of mine on the positive is Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yeah,
Love that ending.
that was so good.
Whole story.
So
was
Oh
great.
good.
yeah, and so I was looking at some of these too, like some of my games, and it's like I loved the whole journey of Life is Strange, and then but the ending wasn't that strong. Like the rest of the game was way stronger. So, but the ending of Red Dead, I thought, of course, the culmination of the whole game
Because
really
it's like
elevated that.
the first bit that when you think it's over, you're like, that was stupid. That is the worst ending ever. And then it's not over.
Yep.
Then you're like, that's so good.
And then the zombies come out, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's another one. There's another one that I know. I'm going through my list. I'm trying to figure out what it is. But I know there's another horrible ending that just drove me crazy.
I got mine. One of my favorites, Braid. I just loved that ending like you would not believe. That was like probably one of the first endings that I finished it, and I just was talking to myself like, what did I just see? Like, how? Well, I gotta go talk to somebody. Like, we gotta work this out because
See, this is my problem with BioShock. Every time I play BioShock, I'm like, I gotta talk to somebody about it. But nobody's played it. You guys need to play BioShock Infinite and finish it. You need to play the whole series. I remember. So this is actually a combination really bad and really good ending. Saints Row. Saints Row without Saints Row 2 has a horrible, horrible ending. When you add Saints Row 2, it has a fantastic ending.
I gotcha. Sure.
It's more of a setup for the sequel than.
Yeah, and I don't know if they planned a sequel when they made the first one. But then they definitely.
Brand new IP. I wouldn't have thought they'd have planned the sequel.
Yeah, and that's
because it was a competitor for Grand Theft Auto at the time.
Yeah, and because there hadn't really been much. And there really wasn't for a long time. I mean, Saints Row was the only Grand Theft Auto style game for years. Since there was San Andreas, and then I think they released a couple of PSP ones or something, but like not full releases. And then it was just Saints Row. I can't remember. I think Call of Duty Black Ops was another one I liked the ending on. I know
okay.
there was a good twist. I don't know if it was the end of the game though. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was okay.
I quite enjoyed the story of Call of Duty
actually,
Black Ops.
If you include the DLC, the ending of Alan Wake.
Yes, that was pretty good. Although I don't feel like there was enough. I like the ending. I didn't feel like there was enough closure.
Yeah, it was a little bit open-ended.
I
guess
I remember.
what the arcade game was about.
I remember Condemned, and Condemned 2. Great stuff, great endings. Except they never made the third one. So Condemned 2 is now a horrible ending. I love that. Love those games.
The last one I'm going to mention is Limbo. Now, that can kind of go either way because the ending kind of sucks because it like just ends, you know. But then you start reading into what exactly you just saw, and it builds this question. I mean, like I almost think the background information about the ending is more interesting than the ending itself, but the way that the conversation evolves from what you just witnessed and people's differing opinions on what the whole game meant and what culminated in the ending, I think is so fascinating. And the fact that the developer's not going to tell you. He specifically said, yeah, some people are close to what it means, but I'm not going to share it. So I think that's really fascinating. And if you've played through the game and haven't read kind of the theories about what the ending means, just glorious stuff.
I'll have to check that out.
I don't think I played that one.
I'll put a link to. I'll find that webpage that had kind of the best fan theories about what Limbo means. It's a great read.
Another one that's actually a good story generally and has a good ending would be Gone Home, of recent memory. I don't know if either of you played through that.
I didn't finish, or I haven't started it, no.
That's another one I'm kind of interested in, but just haven't done.
So there you go, NBA. I hope your wife, WNBA Kirkland, is doing well. Seriously, Big L, that was fantastic.
That's hilarious.
I told my wife about that in the car, and she's like, that's pretty brilliant.
It really is.
Thanks for that question. Mad Eye Pat Eye asks, how much is too much for a game?
See, I really got excited about this question because I had recently been asking myself this question just the other day because I've been trying to do somebody set me off on an impossible search. So if any of you have information, please tell me. It's going to drive me crazy. There's a game called Speak Out English, and it's a Korean game that was supposed to teach you how to speak English. Now, some people have this game. It was very close to launch when it was canceled. So I personally think the game was finished. Something happened, and then it was pulled. And so there's some people that have it, and I assume they have some affiliation with the devs or Microsoft. And I've messaged all of these people, and they're like a vault. So one of them turned his privacy settings on after I messaged him. Like, this secret is trapped forever. But I was thinking, like, okay, so what if one of these guys was like, okay, yeah, I have it. How much would I pay for this game if someone said to me today, I have this game, this might be the only copy of it, how much do you pay for it? And $300 came to mind. But I think I'd pay more than that. I think $300 is lowballing. Because, I don't know, it's just, for a game that rare and how much I enjoy collecting, particularly really rare and even more so unreleased games. I love unreleased games, but I don't have any. Well, I have two, but that was because I got lucky. But they're so hard to find because they never come out. They don't come out until years later. Then it's just one copy that shows up and it goes for $10,000. It's like, well, I'm not going to pay $10,000 for that. Maybe if I was super rich, for some reason it was like the last game to complete my collection. I might, but
I guess that's what it comes down to: is how much is too much. Really, is a measure of what your expendable income is.
Yeah. Well, and then you can start to measure it as like, okay, well, how much is too much as a percentage of your disposable income? So, like, okay, is it 1 month's gaming budget? Is it 3, 6?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I have a gaming budget. I'd buy what I want.
I mean, I would say for Speak Out English, I would go 4 months. 4 months of 100% of my budget to buy a game that rare. Which right now is not that much money, but if I was making more money, then it would be a lot more.
The most money I have spent on a game is $280 US. And that was for a sealed copy of the Memories of 6 Chinese version. And that was probably too much to pay for that. But obviously it's not too much because I paid it. But it was just one of those games that is exceptionally hard to find copies of. And I'd been watching this particular eBay seller for ages and ages, trying to see whether the price would go down. And it eventually reached a point, and I just basically bit the bullet because I happened to have extra money that month. So yeah, I've spent too much money on certain games, and there's other sort of rare titles that have hit around the 100 or 150 US mark that I've purchased, but I still kind of balk at spending that kind of money on some titles, even though they're worth it. Quote, worth it, unquote. So as for too much, I think it really is dependent on your own expendable income and what you're prepared to pay. I don't think there's really a good answer to that question, really.
I think the most I ever paid was 120 US, and that was for BioShock 2 Russian version before it became super common. So then I bought another one about a year later, sealed. See, this was for a used copy. I bought another one sealed a year later for 30, which I still have sealed. That was for collecting. I feel like I want to say I spent more than that on something, but I don't think I have. I don't know.
Two things the things I've spent the most money on, the top of my list is $120, and that's Lego Dimensions. But that was kind of under the guise of a gift for my son, and he likes Legos, so...
Well, but that's not really one game either.
It is not.
Because it's the game plus all the extra
You got all the toys, right? So Toys to Life aside, just an actual game, there are two. First one, and this was back in my competitive multiplayer days, was Call of Duty Black Ops. I spent $90 on the game plus the DLC afterwards, and that was the end of the road for me on that one. I was like, this is the stupidest. Why am I buying these map packs? Why am I doing this garbage? Not happy about that. So that's kind of, I still played some of the Call of Duties afterwards, and did not buy the maps and kind of quit on that. The most recent one has been Destiny. Now, I got the base game on a discount, so I'm only in $75 instead of the, $140 if, you bought everything straight. So $75 is what I'm into that, but again, I'm 350 hours into the game. So I feel pretty good about that investment. I'm getting my money's worth on that. Everything else, it's like I wait until it's at like $20 or less.
Now, if we want to go like games and DLCs and accessories, now Rock Band.
I was going to say.
Let me tell you what I spent on Rock Band. So let's start off. My library in Rock Band 4, I think is. Well, not so we'll go Rock Band 3. I think my Rock Band 3 library is about 600 songs. I'd say about 200 of those are from exports. The rest would be about $2 each. So that's what, 600 to 800 just in songs. Then I have the band bundle. That was 200. I have the Ion drums. I think those were 250. I have so many guitars. I have the Squire guitar that was $250, and that was a steal. I don't even know how many other guitars I have. I mean, Rock Band is in the thousands, but at the same time, this is thousands over 5 years ish, and the amount of time that I sunk into those games is just insane. It's ridiculous. That's all I used to play. So it's absolutely justified spending that much on it, I think. And I still enjoy, even now in Rock Band 4, I can import most of that stuff and still play it, which is fantastic value, I think.
Yeah, I mean, across both Guitar Hero and Rock Band, I know in Rock Band, I bought every single song that they released in the DLC library up to for probably the first 2.5 years. I bought everything just because I was involved in a competitive scene, and I just basically wanted to have everything available. And so, yeah, there's a lot of songs there I've just never played, but I still own them anyway. But I was buying all of the albums, all of the tracks, everything. So I've spent at least a good $800, $900 just on the DLC. And that would be US as well. And then, of course, all of the instruments and the various different versions. I didn't go down the track of getting an Ion or anything like that, but yeah, it's certainly up there and well over $1,000, maybe even up to $2,000 US of money I've spent on this music game hobby.
Well, that doesn't count my drum pedal mod tinkering either.
I mean,
I didn't spend that much on that.
A lot of the time reverse engineering the games and working out the charting and all that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, I was more of a hardware guy in modding. Didn't go so well.
Ridiculous. So did we come up with a number? What's too much? Mine's over $20.
I would say 6.
42. The answer's 40. The answer's 42.
Yeah. I'm gonna. If we're going with a single game, excluding DLC, excluding accessories, I'm gonna go with my 4 months disposable income. That's too much.
Whatever that figure may be in your particular circumstance. So for me, that's thousands.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Because I mean, if I had
to me for one game, that would be way too much. If
I had that much money, and this is talking for something that there's like one of. So like, speak out English. Like I could say, yeah, I'll drop 4 months disposable income on that game. But for a normal kind of like, I want to say like, rare is like something that's kind of uncommon from your region. Super rare is like. It had one run, and then like ultra rare is like Memories Off China. Like if it's like ultra rare game, like you're looking a few hundred probably. Yeah. Something lower than that, maybe 100, but not much is ever going to go over like 60 to 80 range, even new.
So if you're so interested in spending money, R56 Cooper S11 asks, you do any like loot crates, any of that kind of stuff? He says, Urban, they have Loot Gaming. They have a different T-shirt each month. Maybe you're up for that. And he said, unfortunately, Crandy, I can't find a mug one. But does that do anything for you guys?
I'm pretty selective with my T-shirts. I'm not sure about being just given.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say I'm pretty selective with my mugs too, because it's if you're gonna take up mug space, it's got to be a good one.
For me, If Loot Crate existed when I had a dorm and or an apartment to myself, you better believe I'd be all about it. Like, I love tchotchkes and knickknacks and just crap like that. Like, I am totally down. Now that I have a wife, a kid, or 2 kids, and a house, I don't have any personal space. And so, this storm room that I have down here with my machete and tools and whatnot, like that's as close as even like, so when we were cleaning out my father-in-law's, house and stuff, and he had this like really cool looking wooden carved dragon, that like, he had it in his basement and it just really reminds me of him. I don't know why, but I was like, if nobody minds, I'd like to just take this. And my wife looked at me, she's like, where the hell are you going to put that? Like, it doesn't matter where I want to put it. It reminds me of your dad. I want to have this as a memento. And so now it's like locked in this room, and it's like I have all these, my entire childhood is locked behind this, is in this trunk somewhere of all these just things. I'm a kind of a pack rat. So, yeah.
So you need to claim a room as your display room.
I think if I ever get this
dungeon.
thing. Yeah. Once we get this basement finished, I think I might be able to convince, we're many years out from getting a finished basement, but hopefully the podcast is still going strong and I can convince it to be a recording room. And
it's your studio.
My studio, and I can fulfill it with tons of tchotchkes and gaming garbage.
I like jokingly referring to my bedroom as my studio. It's like there's only 2 rooms in my apartment. There's the living room and there's my studio. Yeah. But only when I'm recording. Then other than that, it's a bedroom. See, when the boom arm is up, it's not a studio. It's a bedroom. When the boom arm is down, it's my studio.
Fantastic. Well, we should wrap up listener feedback here. We have still a ton of stuff that we did not get to this week. My friend feed was just chocked full, but we'll tackle that stuff at later dates. So thank you for providing comments and all the fun stuff that you've done. Last thing here, and I'm so bad at tongue twisters. I don't even know if I could do this. But so Oz Bundy Boy, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oz Bundy Boy asks, how much wood was not chucked because the woodchuck couldn't chuck wood the way that he thought he could? And is this what you wrote, Terrigan?
Yep. Yeah, this is.
Am I supposed to read this?
If you like.
Oh my god! Okay, here we go. And I'll try to do as fast as I can. I'm gonna stumble all over it. The only wood that could not be chucked by the woodchuck who could not chuck wood should. Damn it! I can't do it. Give it a shot.
Right, the only wood that could not be chucked by the woodchuck who could not chuck wood the way he should was less than the wood that the woodchuck chucked that he could chuck when I can't do it. Grandy.
The only wood that could not be chucked by the woodchuck who could not chuck wood the way he should was less than the wood that the woodchuck chucked when he could chuck the wood he should have chucked. Good?
That was pretty good. I would have liked a little faster. Turn the beats per minute up on that, but you got the words out.
We can do that in post-production.
Yeah. Get the MIDI going. So
get the chipmunk.
Yes, I will also single-handedly ruin tongue twisters forever.
Man, I hate tongue twisters. I'm so bad at them. But so speaking of MIDI and all that fun stuff, the comment here, it started off on my friend feed with Mighty Mango saying, I'm not so sure we're going to get to the 132 comments this week. I actually got things to do at work today. To what Big L says, I'm here to beg to differ. Let's start with music. There's an awesome video game theme by Jake Kaufman to open and close the show, which we love. It is great. He says, but nobody ever mentions music on the show. So what type of music do you guys listen to when you're in the car, working out? And also, what are your favorite video game soundtracks of all time? In a related question, am I wrong in saying that I could name a million great soundtracks from the NES or Super NES, but not many from 2001 to present? He says, Halo seems kind of be the exception to the rule to me. Why is this? Is it because, unlike the old days, games rely on cutscenes and voice acting instead of music? I'll continue reading the comments because there's some replies to that, but let's start with just kind of our feelings on outside of gaming first. Let's talk about outside of gaming because the rest of the conversation relies heavily on game soundtracks, which I'd like to go deep into. But real quickly, and I'll start. So the workout music at the gym is a high-tempo pop music, which is obnoxious, and they love AC/DC. I do not like AC/DC. So I am super not happy with hearing the same music every day. That's pretty obnoxious. Personally,
so your gym just plays AC/DC constantly?
Pretty much. There's a couple of trainers who do it.
That's weird gym music.
It's not fun. I don't like it. Well,
I like
I said,
AC/DC, but it's like I would not say that that's like gym music.
They crank up the tempo so that it's
Really?
it's a lot faster than normal AC. Like I even listened to a song on the radio today that I was like, oh my gosh, this song's so slow. Why is it like I just always hear it at the gym and they crank the tempo up to make sure you're
the dance version.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. So to be honest though, my genres, the two most popular genres of music I listen to, punk and ska. Of course, ska, when I was in high school, that is pretty much a dead genre. Third wave
is that like DRI and that sort of stuff, or is that a different branch of that? That might be hardcore punk.
Yeah, I'm not as I was more into pop punk than I was into the hate your mother punk, the anti-establishment punk. I do, I had some Propagandhi and some just, Bad Religion, not as much. Good Riddance, that's kind of your anti-establishment punk, Operation Ivy. But no, I tend to like the Fall Out Boys, and that's not really punk anymore. They're really mainstream pop.
They went all like dance now.
Yeah,
and they're still on Rock Band as like dance.
Like NoFX, big NoFX guy. And then from the ska side, Less Than Jake, love Less Than Jake. That's in. So I have my iPod in the car right now. I did go through a phase in college where I crandied some music where I listened to it ironically, and it was Insane Clown Posse. Insane Clown Posse and Twisted. I would listen to those just because they were hilarious, and I enjoyed the backstory to those. But I mean, they're just so every now and again a song will come up on my iPod from ICP, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is just trash. But what about you guys?
Well, I'm very eclectic, and it would be very hard for me to kind of quantify exactly what I listen to. But I guess probably the things I most listen to are very specific bands in a lot of cases. I listen to a lot of Queens of the Stone Age, for example. Really like everything that they do. But I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of that genre, if you know what I mean. And the same with like another band that I listen to a lot, but I'm not really a fan of the genre as a whole, is a band called Carcass. They're a kind of grindcore death metal-y kind of band, but I don't really like anything else that's from that genre. It's kind of weird. So I go through kind of, I like this band, but not anything else. Other things I listen to, I tend to listen to a lot of electronica kind of stuff, usually kind of dancey stuff, particularly when I'm working, bit of dubstep in particular. So I just find that kind of good for concentration when I'm sort of coding or whatever. Otherwise I will listen to pretty much a broad spectrum of everything. In fact, I've just booked tickets to go to the symphony orchestra to listen to Prokofiev. So I listen to everything. Randy?
Yeah, for me, I'm primarily, I would say I'm a metal guy. I do like most kinds of rock variants as well, though, like particularly anything like hard rock, heavier, but some other rock and punk and a bit of all that. Recently, though, I have really been into vaporwave, which probably most people don't know what it is, and it's kind of difficult to describe. So we'll just leave it at it's slowed down elevator music with lots of samples. We'll just leave it at that. I can put some easy listen albums in the show notes or something if anyone wants to check it. It's weird. We'll just leave it. It's weird, but yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the friend feed. Mighty Mango starts off, says, music. I remember going to the midnight launch of Halo 2 and people were singing along to it. So I didn't really understand that. McLovin Legend. Soundtracks, Big L. I loved Mass Effect 2, Bioshock Infinite, old Timmy remixes, Red Dead, and The Last of Us. X Towers was Katamari Damacy? Is that how it's pronounced? Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite game soundtracks of all time. It's a fun game, too, so check out both if you haven't already. What are you guys? You guys have some favorite video game tracks that or soundtracks that you enjoy?
I had to go and dig through my collection to be reminded of what they were. But I've got quite a few actually. I'm actually a bit of a soundtrack buff. I should have mentioned that too. I have a lot of soundtracks in my sort of repertoire of things that I listen to. probably one of my favorite ones is actually the Ring soundtrack and the Inception soundtrack, Hans Zimmer. But on the terms of gaming ones, the Halo soundtrack is actually a bit of a favorite. I quite liked a lot of that.
Did you listen to the IGN Unfiltered with Marty O'Donnell?
No, I don't think I did.
Give it a listen. I just finished it today. Ryan McCaffrey sits down with Marty O'Donnell, the composer for the Halo, and of course tons of other things. Gives his entire life story, working on Destiny, just everything that has to. He is so charismatic and entertaining to listen to. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Cool. Yeah, all right, I'll check that out. Other things I've sort of listened to, I'll probably put this into rough chronological order here. Older ones would be like Quake. The original Quake has a bit of an interesting story with their soundtrack. It was composed by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, and he did this in '94 during the pre-Fragile era. So it was very sort of noisy, electronic-y kind of spooky sound kind of stuff. And that soundtrack was actually really sought after in the sense that people would actually go and buy the demo of Quake, because the demo CD actually had, from track 2 onwards, the soundtrack for that. And you could actually just extract the soundtrack directly off the demo disc for Quake. So that's a bit of interesting history there. But I quite liked that soundtrack back in the day.
Well, he was a big fan of Doom, wasn't he? And that's why he wanted to compose it?
Yeah, well, I think he was asked, and they said they knew he was a fan, and they asked him to do it. But they actually also added the nail gun in Quake. The ammo box for that actually has the Nine Inch Nails logo on it.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, interesting.
They were 9 Inch Nails to feed the nail gun. So, yeah, there's a bit of a crossover there. If you wanted to go back much, much further, I actually used to be in the Commodore 64 sort of demo scene back in the day, and I actually used to compose music myself for bits of that. But I had a few sort of favorite chiptune, as they would be called now, authors like sort of Martin Galway or Rob Hubbard and those kind of people, JCH, Jerome Tell. They're kind of classics from that era, and they still hold a bit of a place in my heart. Moving much more recent though, Portal 2. Really liked the soundtrack. They released like 3 albums worth of soundtracks for Portal 2 free, and all of that. So it's really kind of atmospheric, soundscapey kind of stuff. It's probably not the normal listening, but that's sort of the stuff that's up my alley as well. Along with Silent Hill, the Silent Hill soundtracks. I quite like my spooky kind of soundtracks. So Silent Hill 1 and 2, and even the later ones. Other games sort of a bit more sort of upbeat, I guess. Sword and Sorcery and Machinarium. I've got the soundtracks for both of those, and they're also really good. Highly recommend giving those a listen. Jim Guthrie, I think, was the musician behind Sword and Sorcery, and highly recommend giving that a listen. So I don't know if you guys have got a list of yours, but that's roughly what I went through with my collection.
That's quite the list. I'm pretty terrible with video game music. I think the only one that really comes to mind that I went out of my way about was Life is Strange. Now, it helps that it was so recent, but, I enjoy the Halo. I enjoy Destiny's music, and the sound effects and the composition behind the game. But for whatever reason, it's hard for me to focus on specific musical. I don't know. Maybe I just have a terrible ear for it. What about you, Randy?
I've actually, now that we've kind of talked about it, I had to quickly scramble to find a piece of paper so I don't forget them. So I'll start off with Dead Rising. Now, Dead Rising was just the best. That mall music.
that mall music.
The best. So good. Dead Rising 2 was okay, but it's so good. Like, that's one of my favorites because it's so perfect. But no mall sounds like that. But it's so perfect. It's so good. Then of course BioShock Infinite, just that eerie, perfect time era sound on both of those games. I really,
I would echo that. The actual sound in BioShock was, I think, the thing that most impressed me.
So good. And if you want to go into sound, not so much the soundtrack, but the actual game sounds, Syndicate was, this is again my two games that are like my favorite games that I talk about all the time, but they're so good. The sounds in Syndicate were just incredible. And like the gun sounds, the fighting sound, just everything. All the sounds were wonderful. Saints Row. I mean, it's not a conventional soundtrack, but the songs that were chosen for both Saints Row 1 and 2, less so 3 and onward, it had such a good mix, and I really liked that. And the things that the game allowed you to do, pick the radio stations, customize your own radio station, and that there was so much variety was nice, and I liked that. Killer Instinct 2. Love the soundtrack for Killer Instinct 2. Party Hard was really good. I think I mentioned I like the soundtrack.
Yeah, that song, I found the source of that song was that song is kind of a homage to a fairly classic 80s track.
Which one? Party Hard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there's more than one song, is there? Or was it only one?
Yeah, the one song, I watched a feed of it and it had one particular song.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And then now the weird one. Tetris for CDI. Amazing soundtrack. Yeah, that's a weird one. So, but that of all of them, that one was probably my favorite. I don't know. BioShock's pretty up there. But yeah, Tetris for CDI. I'll see if I can find it. I've never played the game. I've only heard the soundtrack. It's wonderful.
So back in, I think it was early in January, Game Informer did a podcast where they talked about music, and they had some of the editors come in and do their favorites of, more modern music that's in games and historical music that's in games.
Sorry to cut you off. I have to do one more. Earthworm Jim 2. That entire soundtrack and Sonic CD. Those are two from like that era that were just so on point. Both in kind of variety and just sound were fantastic. Sorry to cut you off. Well,
no, it's fine. So, I mean, it's kind of along those same lines. And what they did is they brought this, they got the files to play the music, and then they kind of talked about them on the podcast about just why it resonated with them, what they liked about it, and how they did 2 episodes of this. And I don't have to look in their back catalog for them if you want to hear those. But going back to like those older ones, Dr. Mario and Tetris, they have such iconic music, and I just love the, that MIDI style of, or what did you call it, Urban? What? Chiptune. I love hearing, even if they like took modern music and chiptuned it. Like I love listening to that type of music. It's great.
I guess you have to give a shout out to Guile's theme from Street Fighter 2.
Oh yeah,
that goes to anything. There's a whole meme for that. It's basically just take some random thing and it does something, and then put the Guile theme over it, and it just works.
Nice. Yeah. So I want to read this theory by Nexus Plexus on kind of old music. He says, regarding old soundtracks being memorable, I have a theory, and they were generally short, simple tunes that would play in a loop during gameplay, and because of the repetition, you can't help but remember these tunes. In more modern times, sound design has become drastically more complex. Most games have loads of sound effects for every aspect of gameplay, and in many cases, these sounds give the player audio cues about how they're doing or what they should do next. A soundtrack that is similar to a classic soundtrack would obscure the overall sound design. Also, current soundtracks sometimes get the full orchestral treatment, and those songs don't drill into your memory like the old classics. And then he apologizes for the wall of text and says, "Thank you and keep up the good work, guys." To which Big L says, "Hey, that's actually an awesome theory, and I totally agree with it wholeheartedly, and never apologize for being thorough."
I totally agree with that theory.
I do, and it's funny because I never considered it.
And the thing is, too, is in older games, is you keep playing those first levels over and over again.
Absolutely.
Because you die and you don't get to continue, so you got to start from the beginning again.
Right.
You gotta go to school, turn off your Sega, come home. You got to start from the beginning again.
Yep. The two tunes I just mentioned, Tetris and Dr. Mario, same freaking tune over and over. Do 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 do.
Well, isn't Tetris like a Russian folk song?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before that comment even came in, I was thinking, in response to this particular thread, I was thinking that, well, there's the difference between older style games or even just short games that have just a running theme in the background that doesn't have any relation to the game itself, and modern sort of bigger games is the fact that they do have what is essentially a movie soundtrack. And one of the key principles of movie soundtracks is really you shouldn't actually notice the soundtrack. If you are noticing the soundtrack, then there is something wrong because it's taking away from the thing you should be focusing on, which is the action in the movie. It's there to augment what is happening. So a lot of music should be augmenting what is happening in the game. It's there to communicate the emotions or the feelings of what's happening within the game, but shouldn't be what distracts you from the game.
Yeah.
So modern music in modern games is going to be in that same formula where if you're noticing it, it's probably doing something wrong, or it's doing something wrong in the right way. So there's sometimes you will definitely notice music, and I think Portal 2, I think there were certain points where you definitely noticed the music playing, but it was still part of and still connected with the activities within the game in such a way that it didn't distract from it. So I think that's possibly a reason we don't really remember game music as often. And I think take Tomb Raider. I'm sure that the Tomb Raider games, the most recent ones, have excellent soundtracks, but I can't remember a single thing from it.
Yeah.
Of the music, and I'm sure that the reason for that is because it's been tuned so well with the gameplay itself that it is part of the background.
And
the
Tomb Raider is basically a movie.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah. The soundtrack plays like that, and so it is really just part of the experience and not something that you have running in the background constantly whilst you go through the first level and die.
And so I think that's very true, because like even thinking of like the top ones on my list, like Dead Rising, BioShock, Syndicate. A lot of the game doesn't even have music, but that's part of why it's so good, is because when you have music, it's there for a reason. It's like the club. We mentioned the club thing before, but it's like that music is only in the club. And when you leave the club, that music's gone because you're not in the club anymore. And it's all in the atmosphere, and it adds to like BioShock, like you hear the creepy record playing. You know, like you walk into the store, it's got the scratchy record going kind of thing. Like it's definitely different.
Yeah, I think, I keep bringing this one up. It resonates with me, but Life is Strange, that soundtrack, it does exactly, what you mentioned with playing in the background to enhance the feelings that you get. But what I appreciated was they also then gave the music opportunities to shine by making that the character in the scene or something, right? Like that first scene where she walks in the hallway, puts her earbuds in, and the music amplifies, and you're looking at the walls, reading things, that really hits and makes that music so memorable for me.
Yeah, there's I think there's a key difference in soundtracks in the sense of a soundtrack that has a set of like popular tracks, like popular songs, versus a soundtrack that has been written from scratch and is basically an emotional undercurrent for a title, a game, or a movie, or whatever. So I tend to separate those into two different distinct types of soundtracks. Life is Strange, it probably actually had more music in it than what we know of as the soundtrack for it. So we've got all the songs that we know from Life is Strange that we remember because they were from key parts of the story. but there's probably more music there, but you just didn't notice it because it was part of the background music, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And we'll probably never see that. So yeah, I tend to not so much anymore anyway, but I certainly used to frown upon soundtracks that were purely just a bunch of pop songs that they chucked in, on movies anyway.
Yeah.
So you go and buy the movie soundtrack and it'd be like just a bunch of songs that they decided to license for the movie rather than the score, which is the actual music from the show. So
I'd be interested to hear the Flame in the Flood. Because that music, it's getting very high praise. But that was written specifically for that game, but it's not. I mean, I'm sure there is music that supplements gameplay, but it's also they're like folk songs. It's to create an atmosphere. I think of like Fallout, the Fallout universe. They've got that throwback 1950s or 20s. What era is that? But you know what I'm talking about. The very distinctive Fallout music that is not that doesn't enhance gameplay, but that is so iconic to that series of games, and it's fantastic. It'd be interesting to hear Flame in the Flood and how that amplifies or detracts from the game. Great topic. I love listening to when. To what you guys mentioned earlier about when it's done right, you don't hear it. But when it's isolated and presented in a way that it's like, this is what is going on in the background, and listen to it now isolated from playing the game, and you're like, man, that is just haunting, or that is just exquisite. Like, I could listen to this all day. And then you put it into the context of the game, or if the music's so powerful, it conjures up images of the game in your head, and you're just like, I remember what I was doing when I was listening to this music. I mean, it's so powerful of a medium. It's really cool.
I just want to clarify something. I forgot that Sonic CD has 2 soundtracks. I'm talking about the American one, not the European and Japanese one. That one's good too, but the American one is better, I think. Most people disagree with that.
Awesome. You guys have anything else you want to touch on with soundtracks, or should we move into our closing features here?
I think we should
move on, yeah.
Awesome. Well, this week is Shovelware Cemetery. It is on, so Crandy, take it away.
All right, for this week's Shovelware Cemetery, we're going to revisit a game that we already talked about, but since it got a major update, and I feel like we were kind of hard on it, or I was kind of hard on it the first time, we're going to revisit Hero Defense, especially after we talked about it a bit last week with the Carson interview. So if you haven't listened to the first Shovelware Cemetery featuring this game, I recommend you do, because some of the things I'm going to cover are just very brief kind of corrections to that. So I'll start off. I originally said Uber Strategist was involved with development or publishing. They're actually the PR company, and Happy Tuesday is both the developer and the publisher. So just wanted to clear that up first. Next, with the single player, there's updates coming that rebalance the game to use fewer heroes, and that was kind of one of my criticisms previously, was that it was kind of too much to manage all at once, and I think with that it will make the game a lot better to play. It'll be a little easier to manage, because when you're trying to manage 5 of the heroes on one map, it can get pretty hectic. So next, the Tower Defense MOBA RPG. Now that I kind of played some more, spent a bit more time with it, I do think it actually does pretty much do all of those things. Kind of probably less so the MOBA than the other two, but definitely Tower Defense and RPG. But it does have that MOBA bit, because you move your towers around. Your towers our heroes. And the RPG elements definitely are there, and I noticed it a bit more playing multiplayer, kind of starting over again, and it being kind of more in your face because you have to start over, you have to set it up, and if you don't set it up properly, you're going to lose a lot in multiplayer. As I mentioned, the camera is good. The character variety is good. There's the one character for each enemy that's strong against them. I have played all 5 now, and that still holds up at the 5th one. I mentioned kind of part of the game felt like I was just grinding levels for a bit, and that was actually me not knowing what I was doing. Now that I played a bit more, I found out how to kind of utilize the maps a bit better and the characters a bit better, and of course the RPG elements, and it's a lot more manageable. And with kind of the voice acting, that was kind of what they were going for, as I mentioned previously. So that's good. And the story is kind of, it's not really the center of the game, as I kind of suspected. So, which is good. It's, it adds something to the game, but it's not the core of it. So now the biggest part we're going to talk about today is the multiplayer, which I thought was really fun. It's putting 2 players against each other, kind of on the same map, with the same characters and the same resources, or not resources, because that's a little different. But it's basically who can survive the longest, and whoever finishes away first gets to send a punishment to the other player, which I didn't really know how a tower defense game was going to have competitive multiplayer, but it works really well, and it was a lot of fun playing it. So you get to send the punishments. It's very fast. Like, I don't think any matches that I played have gone more than 5 minutes. Most of them are just a few minutes, and it's just it's fast enough to kind of just be able to, you kind of want to play one more game, or you've got a few minutes, you can play a couple rounds. You don't have to play it all day, which was good. I found that kept me kind of wanting to play more, and it works really well. So when multiplayer has a town just like single player does. It has a lot of the same things single player does, with runes and upgrades and levels, but it's separate from the single player. So when you start multiplayer, you start fresh, but you have all the characters unlocked, which is kind of cool. So you've got a separate set of upgrades, a separate set of runes, and it's really well done. So there's a couple things that are cool with multiplayer too. It's the same thing where you upgrade your characters on each map, and you can kind of strategically steal kills from your opponent, which does give them an advantage in that you're killing their enemies, but at the same time you're taking the potential experience upgrades, so you can kind of punish them more later, which is, I think, a cool aspect. And you can only do it in certain parts of the map too, because only parts of it overlap, or you're going to be able to hit either side. And there were a few maps for multiplayer too, so it's not always on the same one. And yeah, I think that about does it for this. So I really did enjoy this game, especially a bit more now, getting into it a little bit more. So I think, again, we're gonna send this one to the Sanctuary. Oh, I forgot to note too that there have been a lot of bug fixes with the single player. I still haven't encountered it. Well, I did encounter one bug in multiplayer that I think has been fixed. But yeah, so there have been a lot of bug fixes with single player too, and tweaks that I forgot to mention earlier. So I definitely do recommend checking this game out, and I hope it does make its way to Xbox one day.
Wonderful. And of course, we couldn't get by without a little Knobs and Discos, our home for unobtainable and discontinued achievements. What's on the table today, Crandy?
This week, some good news. The Forza 3 servers are back, apparently. This isn't confirmed. This is just submitted, so don't know yet.
Checking into it.
But a lot of a lot of it was all the ones that we mentioned last time. I think there's still a couple that won't come back with this, but most of the stuff should be back, hopefully, which is I didn't expect that to happen, but that's good to see.
Yeah, for sure. And actually we had a pretty slow week in the backwards compatibility and game delay roundup. There was just one backwards compatible title this week, but it broke the internet. Call of Duty Black Ops was released for backwards compatibility, and Twitter freaked out. Reddit freaked out.
I don't quite understand why it's so exciting to play a game that, like, you can still play it. Like, most of the people that are talking about backwards compatibility still have a 360, and nobody cared about Black Ops until it was backwards. It confuses me, but this one in particular, like, yeah, we gotta go play Black Ops. You could have played Black Ops for like the last 6 years.
I know,
it's
right?
Still
and
there.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, and it just so happened this week, and I'm sure there was no coincidence here that this was totally planned, but it was on sale this week as part of the Spotlight sale, and like, I wonder how many people bought this game again.
And it's so overpriced on the sale even. It's still $60 regular price. It was on sale for $20. You can get the double pack with Black Ops 1 and 2 at GameStop for $15 or $16 or something. Like, you get both of them.
I was blown away.
For less money.
The
but
internet.
Then you have to put the discs in the drive, and
oh yeah, that's true.
That's true. The internet just freaked out. It was kind of funny. All right, well, let's shamble into zombie news and wrap up the show. Actually, pretty busy zombie news week. I'm going to save something for next week, but what I do want to get into is, because we were talking about Capcom, and I said, I think Tokyo Game Show. I don't think anything at E3. And then we did our apology. I mean, this is 3 weeks in a row now we're talking about Capcom, because they indeed are going to make a Resident Evil 7 announcement at E3.
They've announced it now, then how can they announce it at E3?
Well, that's kind of the thing. So there's a Japanese analyst, Serkin Toto. He made 2 posts on Twitter. He worked on the Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. His 2 tweets are, 1, about Resident Evil 7. Yes, it's in development. The entire game will go back to Resident Evil's horror roots and essentially be a clean slate. Number 2, they will show it at E3. The Resident Evil 7 team hired Jordan Amaro, a designer who previously worked on Metal Gear Solid 5 and PT at Kojima Productions. So he made the announcement of, this is what you should expect. The game is going to be announced at here. What I am so pumped about is the comment about returning to its horror roots, because I did so thoroughly enjoy 1 and 4. 4 was getting toward that action-y part, and I enjoyed 5. It was serviceable. But, I mean, I think, Terrigan, you're kind of in the same boat, too. You'd much rather get back to those tense moments, and not just being like, oh, I got to just blast all these zombies. Let's do this. Yeah,
that's got to be done well, too. Something I also really don't like about a lot of sort of horror games is the monster in the closet. Approach. So you walk into a new room and a monster appears in the closet behind you, and that's basically the entirety of the game. I find that a bit dull after a while, because you kind of think, okay, new room, yep, I know I got to turn around and fight something now.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good. It has to be done well.
Yeah, I'll agree with that too. And so, we had talked last show kind of about with their earnings statements, where they said they had their 3 planned releases. Monster Hunter for $2 million, and they had a different $2 million or 2 million copy game and a 4 million copy game. I think we can identify what the 4 million copy game is now. Resident Evil 7 will be the 4 million copy game. Resident Evil 6, I think, sold 5 million copies. Oh, they shipped 5 million copies.
Yeah,
so that had terrible reviews.
That one kind of flopped.
Yeah.
Didn't
So I mean,
flop
well,
into sales, but
the thing that they still shipped 5 million copies, and the reviews were horrible. They're probably being a little bit more conservative with 4 million copies of 7.
Well,
Even
and
that's
I
pretty
wonder
high.
too if they're going back to kind of the horror roots, if the kind of re-release of Resident Evil 1 was kind of to test the waters with that, to see
Probably.
what the response was like. Because a lot of people probably have never even experienced Resident Evil as its original Resident Evil, where it was, very, very difficult and almost, I want to say, clunky. But I mean, that's
going back to like tank controls.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that's part of the game, but it
Yeah.
really is clunky.
Super clunky. But it's like that created tension though. Like that is because like in the remake when you could have free control and you could just like run in circles around the zombie because they couldn't catch up to you because you're supposed to be in tank controls.
Oh, I didn't realize that they put that kind of control in the new. I didn't play the new version.
Yeah, in the
they
remake
did the
you
same
can
thing.
toggle.
They
And
did
you,
the same thing with the remake of Silent Hill as well.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 and 3. They modified it so you could switch to just run around controls rather than tank controls.
yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. Like, I remember playing Silent Hill, and like, yeah, that had tank controls, and I mean, you were just like freaking out. You heard your radio static going, and you're just like, "Oh my god, where are these things?
back up.
What's going on?" And then all of a sudden, you could just see it shambling down the hall, and you're like, "Turn around, go, come on!" And you're just not rotating fast enough, and it's like you're just panicking. Those, I mean, as antiquated as that movement system is, like it did really amp up that tension, knowing like I'm fighting the controls so bad, it's so hard. So anyway.
So it's something quite technical that you need to do in a moment of panic. It adds to the difficulty for sure.
Right. So we had another. There's another announcement. Not really an announcement, but kind of a clarification on what Techland is working on. It was the Digital Dragons 2016 conference out in Poland, and their CEO Parwell Marchuwaka. Oh boy, I butchered that name. Anyway, he said. And I'll just read his quote here. "I'd like to share some good news with all the fans of Techland's games. We're currently working on not 1, but 2 new titles. We estimate their total budget to be around $77 million, and so these will be so-called AAA games." Now, he doesn't say what indeed those are, but he does say that there is a... I guess he did explain what they are. So... Well, he didn't come out and say, guess what? One of them is Dying Light 2. But I think it's very much anticipated that will be one of the announced titles. But that leaves like what is the other one? It's been teased as an RPG set in a fantasy universe. So we don't quite...
Oh, that's never been done before.
Yeah, right? I mean, that literally could be anything. Maybe it's Fable 4. Anyway, so we don't know what that is. But Dying Light 2 is almost assuredly confirmed through this. Not officially announced yet, but it's on its way, friends. So there you go. Parkour zombie action. For those of you who need your zombie fix sooner than that, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 has got their newest giant patch or content release, I guess. It's called Trouble in Zombopolis. And actually called Zombopolis Part 1. And what this is, so there's a new city, a new world, Zombopolis. Dr. Zomboss is gonna build like this mega zombie robot that you have to fight. They introduce a couple new characters, the Toxic Citron and the Breakfast Brains, and just a bunch of other crazy crap that they're adding to the game. In Garden Warfare 1, both of these were all free, and this will be free as well. They all introduce new achievements. So I would 100% expect this to also include achievements. So if you're clamoring for some things to do, you will have an opportunity And if you're curious, check the show notes. It's a link to the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 homepage where they detail all of the content and new features that they're adding. I'm going to looking quick to see if there's any like, hey, we added a bunch of achievements, but they didn't say that. So, like I said, I would be shocked if they're not in there. I'm almost 100% sure that they will be. So that I think that wraps it up for the show, guys. It was fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed listening to it because I loved recording it. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who helped put this show together. We reached out to a ton of news sources this week: IGN, GameSpot. There's a Kotaku article that we'll put in the show notes about the end of Limbo. If you guys want to read that thing, EA had a bunch of good stuff for us. It was thorough of a show for our news part of it. So without the help of them, we couldn't get this thing going. But without the help of you, our awesome listeners, we can't keep growing the show and having people listen. So if you guys listening to us out there could give us a rating on your podcast listening app, either Google Play, iTunes, whatever you're listening to it on, we would totally appreciate that. It's a completely free way to support the show. Of course, we love the discourse on our Fred feeds, the conversations through Twitter, and all of the ways that you reach out to the Z2Z podcast. Of course, Twitter is so simple, and you can get very direct responses. We are at Z2Z, ZEDTOZED. Of course, our email works, contact@Z2Z.com. There's that leaderboard set up over at True Achievements where Urban is going to be tinkering with some tracking, a leaderboard tracking information on that. We would love to get that up and going. Of course, it's a great way for us to communicate with our community until we find a home of our own, a home we can call our own. But yeah, take a trip over to our website, Z2Z.com. Take a look at those show notes, credits, links. There's tons of stuff in there that we've talked about today that you should absolutely take a look at. We also should give a huge thank you to TrueAchievements.com. They've been wonderful to us and provide such great content and tracking of all these wonderful achievements. And of course, where would we be without Microsoft and the Xbox console? So, on behalf of Crandy and Terrigan, this has been Brandon. And to all you achievement hunters and Gamerscore junkies out there, thank you so much for listening. We will catch you next episode.
See you later, guys.
Thanks for listening. It was on one of the threads about like Rock Band not having practice mode or something. And I'm like, oh, sure wish I could practice. Oh yeah, no, it was the brutal mode. I'm like, oh, sure wish I could practice this. Oh wait.
Yeah,
and then he's like, yeah, and then he's like, oh well, why can't you just do have a machine do it for you anyway? I'm like, yeah, I already did. I did the day it came out.
Cabbage, I like carrots. Who am I talking about? It's Randy the Rabbit.
So they broadcast on Twitch, and so one of the co-hosts was doing his thing, and he said, hey, I'm not feeling that well, so, if you hear me cut out, it's because I'm muting my mic and coughing. Well, so I'm like 20 minutes into the show, and I'm sure he's muting, but it's not taking the sound out. So he is coughing the entire first. I'm just like, oh my god, I really should just fast forward, like just get out of here, but
tea too dry, I think, in the oven. And then Cranny will have to do some sun drying and grind it down. I think he has to import the water from Albania or something.
Right? Actually, Himalayan water.
Straight off the ice caps.
Got a biscuit from Popeyes. Leftovers. It's so good. Do you have Popeyes in your neighborhood, Free?
There's one in Minnesota, and it is actually, I think they just opened up a second or third. But the original Popeyes, I actually had an apartment kind of close to it, but it was one of those, like, you went about 3 minutes into a neighborhood you didn't want to be in.
That's where they always are.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. So
It's worth it, though.
It was close enough to maybe make a trip, but, like,
You never did?
I'm not a big fried chicken guy.
It doesn't matter. It's worth it. Like really kind of cult following, like very passionate following things, and then spoof those. Like Rush, I cannot imagine. Like people would probably get like legit beat up if they wore like a Rush shirt that said like Metallica on it or something. Like I don't know what it is with like Rush fans. Some Rush fans, obviously not all Rush fans. It's like, yeah, no. I know this from experience.